Wildcard Weekend. Over to you, Griff.
Hello and welcome to the Super Snap UK podcast, where smooth talking and smooth balls are all the rage.
Woo! This is going so well.
I'm really glad I bothered to script that for you.
Whoa! Every week it gets harder to stay quiet during that intro when you know what's coming.
Yeah, that's what she said. Right, well, we have 6 games to cover from the weekend. Some teams were straight up mowed down to the bone. Some were forced to trim their hopes and expectations quickly and quietly. And some were comfortably and safely through to pound the next round, smelling good and feeling fresh. We'll take an in-depth look at each game and assess who overachieved, who underachieved, and how Mike McCarthy ever got another job. Jim, John and Paul are here, as well as pod dog number 4, Enid. Hello, Enid. Say hi, everyone.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Sadly, no Gary this week. He just couldn't hack the stress of another Niners playoff run.
Can I just interrupt? How stressful it must be watching your team in the playoffs.
Oh, man, it was.
Oh, God, I'd hate to watch my team in the playoffs.
It was really stressful.
Who is it you support again?
The worst team in the league of the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about having to be stressed on playoff weekend for a while. Okay. Only one team in each conference had a bye this year, so plenty of rest for the Tetons and the Packers. Everyone else, let's play off. Woo. Game 1, Raiders 19, Bengals 26. Christ, I didn't even have pubes the last time the Bengals won a playoff game, which is just as well as manscaping hadn't been invented then either.
Whoa!
Oh yeah, we haven't okayed that advert yet. So, a fairly close shave for the Bengals, but in the end, the better team emerged from the undergrowth and laid to rest the past 30 years of playoff agony.
I've realised this is a perfect opportunity to... Madden is very realistic and accurate. Because it was John who brought this point up to me, that Joe Burrow and the offensive coordinator of the Bengals are playing Madden like I would. I've got one good receiver, and I've got a quarterback with a good arm. I'm just going to overdo that constantly. And let's hope for the best. And luckily, they came up against the Raiders, who... Yeah...
Didn't seem to understand the fact that you had to double team Jamar Chase.
Well, even if you did, like CJ Uzoma had some catches in the first half, but yeah, it was the Burrow and Chase show, and the defense for the Bengals stepped up when they needed to.
This wasn't only the longest drought for a playoff win in NFL history; it was the longest current drought in any of the 4 major American sports leagues. So no one had been this shit for this long. Is basically what that's telling you.
Some to aim for, Giants fans.
The new streak starts now.
We've been a streak for a while.
There is that.
Just to add to the not having pubes, I wasn't at school. I hadn't actually gone to school yet the last time they won a playoff game.
And where are you now in life?
I've just finished school.
I was held back many, many times. I've managed to grow hair, lose my hair.
Yes.
And
well, you didn't grow a human, but you participated in the growth of a human.
I was present.
Yeah.
And I presented.
Still are.
I hope I did. So, yeah, I mean, it was also that funny thing you saw that was going around social media, that nobody had ever sent a text message talking about how the Bengals had won a playoff game.
Yeah, that's frightening, isn't it?
That's frightening for the Bengals fans who deserve this. They've had a hard time.
Technically, no one still has sent a text message. Everyone uses WhatsApp now, right? Do we still send text messages as they were?
I think the Americans probably do that.
We bypass that technology?
I mean...
Even my mum uses WhatsApp now.
See, my parents, it's text message. So
the only person that text messaged me is sat at this table.
Is it me?
Oh, that Paul has just texted me saying the Bengals won.
Just in case you're the first person to do it.
Just to make sure that is a fact now, not just social media hype.
This was a tighter game than a lot of people had penciled it in to be. 4 field goals made each, which is the first time in playoff history. And to be fair, the Raiders could have won it right at the death. They marched 70 yards down the field, and unfortunately for Raiders fans, Derek Carr picked off on the edge of the end zone, but it was that close. Ultimately, I thought Zach Taylor froze a little bit, didn't try and close the game out with Joe Burrow, tried to close it out with the run and some conservative play calling, and gave the Raiders that chance to win.
But that's what you kind of should do as a coach. You should try and drain the clock as much as you possibly can. We've all played Madden. We've all been there, unless we're playing the Giants where we want to absolutely rack up the score. That's how you win games. Sorry.
I haven't. I mean, you talk like I've done. I haven't played Madden since about 1996.
So you have played Madden then?
Yeah, but I've never tried to rack up the score. I was just trying to work out the buttons.
There's only 3 at that point, wasn't
Yeah,
there?
there was. Yeah. I was still in trouble. I told you all you need to know. The point being, though, the Raiders certainly gave it a good shot. Ultimately, I think you would struggle to say that the better team didn't come out on top. The Bengals, far and away, looked the better squad in this game.
Oh, yeah.
But it leaves you wondering what would the Raiders have been with Ruggs on the field and, half of their squad not having been injured during the season. Waller hasn't looked the same since he was injured. So I'm not sure they were in the best shape to produce an upset.
No, I still don't like some of their play calling, though. I think they only ran the ball 14 times. I know they were behind.
And Josh Jacobs looked like their best player.
Yeah, exactly. Josh Jacobs had an average carry of 6.4 yards per carry.
Yeah.
And I know they were behind for quite a long period of the match, but that meant they were behind with a lot of time to go. They didn't need to rush it. I think I get the feeling now sometimes some coaches are impatient when they're behind, and they almost lose their head. Sean McVay is a little bit like that. I think a really good example is Kyle Shanahan the other week against when the 49ers played the Rams. He didn't panic. Just play to his strengths, keep running the ball. And I think that's what the Raiders could have did. They asked Derek Carr to throw 54 times. That's a lot. Derek Carr's a good player. He's a good quarterback. And you look at that and go, well, yeah, all right. But it's still a lot of times against the defense, which was playing really well.
You've got a half-decent O-line and a first-round running back.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. I think with the Raiders, though, this is an opportunity to kind of take some hope from this. Any other team that's had what's happened to them this season wouldn't have made the playoffs.
No, 100%.
Rich Bisaccia deserves a go for me. But he's not. I know he's not the marketable name, but he's the name that got them to the playoffs.
I agree with your sentiment. There is no chance that if he'd have won this game, I think he was in. There is no chance that he keeps the job. I think it's a shame because, like you say, it comes down to marketable name. They have to have something to put above the door. Yeah. Whether you like it or not, Gruden was a name above the door, and it worked. People wanted to come and play for Gruden. Whether or not it was worth anything, I don't know, but it was marketable. Rich Bisaccia is not marketable. I can't even spell it. It's not going to help them bring in players. So they're going to be looking for a coach, but anybody should be looking at this squad and thinking, look at what they've overcome and where they got to. I am not a million miles away from a deep playoff run with this team.
Rich Bisaccia sounds like somebody whose henchman beat me up in Vegas.
What you should be doing is looking at this team and thinking, yeah, Derek Carr, that is good enough. I can win with Derek Carr.
It's not just Bisaccia that's changing at the Raiders, is it?
No, we learned in the last 24 hours that Mike Mayock is also gone. So they need a GM as well as a head coach. Mayock and Gruden were tied together. He was never going to survive this, I don't think.
It doesn't strike me as a surprise. It's only a surprise it probably didn't happen sooner. I do feel sorry for Mike Mayock because from everything I can understand, he wasn't in charge of making first-round picks. That fell to Gruden. And the problem with the Raiders has been the first-round picks. Yeah. Right? They've actually got value in later picks. You think about Max Crosby, who's somehow an all-pro defensive edge.
Let it go.
But yeah, I mean that's an example. From the third, fourth, fifth round down, he's actually got value. I think he's done a decent job there. But to your point, they want to bring in someone established and someone a good name above the door and almost start again.
Aren't most of the good GM picks already interviewing elsewhere?
Yes,
get them
but they're not hired at least.
Yeah,
so there's still the likes of the 49ers person, Adam Peters. There's a lot of others that spring to mind because they're difficult names to remember.
Ortiz,
potentially. Yeah.
That
Ortiz.
guy at the Bills who Joe.
That's right.
Schoen.
Schön.
Pardon, excuse me while I have a stroke.
That's also what she said.
Whoa!
There's a few interviewing from like franchises which have had a good season. 49ers, there's two from the 49ers. There's a guy from the Titans. New England ultimately always put someone into the mix as well.
But these are GMs who are going through their second round of interviews. I know the Giants have started their second round today, I believe.
They can afford to have a second round.
Well, yes, because there's nobody internally going for the job,
Which is a good thing.
which is good. But yeah, it means
I'd have just run through the offices with a flamethrower to get everyone out.
as well. I found out today the Giants, because they have two owners, because it's one of the few that's
Wellington, yeah.
it's very rare to get them in the same place at the same time. So, Mara, I think, does the first batch of interviews. Then you have to go and meet with Steve Tisch separately, which just sounds like an absolute clusterfuck. So, yeah, apologies. Yeah.
We've got to stop talking about the Giants.
Yeah,
Playoff. We're talking about playoffs.
We're talking about playoffs, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Joe Burrow, multiple touchdown passes. Who was the last Bengals quarterback with multiple touchdown passes in the playoffs?
Well, it wasn't Andy Dalton because he only threw one, didn't he?
Would it be Boomer Esiason?
It would be Boomer Esiason back in 1990.
Nice.
This is quite a time
He
to wait.
looked. He just
Okay, Boomer.
through the whole game. You saw him pull up to the stadium, saw him come out dressed. I don't know what he was dressed in, but some call it cool. I don't. But through the whole day, he just looked so relaxed and so chilled. And I think it was one of the Ryan brothers, Rob or Rex, who said he is the next coming of Tom Brady, and you can see that because he's just so controlled.
Yeah.
They're calling the NFL on social media today. We're saying this is the beginning of Joey January or January Joey.
Sometimes marketing department should be trusted.
Yeah, he's 10 touchdowns to no interceptions in his last 3 games. And his last 3 games, he's played good teams.
Oh, yeah, he's playing brilliantly, and he is the primary reason why they are where they are. So it's credit to Joe, but let's give it time before we anoint him as Tom Brady.
I didn't anoint him. One of the Ryan brothers anointed him.
Well, perhaps we won't listen to them too closely. 2 men who are out of jobs in the NFL. Daniel Carlson surpassed Sebastian Janikowski for the most points scored in a season by any Raider. 163. That's quite impressive considering Janikowski was nailing field goals from them for 50-odd yards forever.
Yeah. He's been...
Carlson's
been
was light
automatic.
out. He
all
was
season.
brilliant in this game. He's been brilliant all season. And again, it's another foundational piece. You look at the teams that chase round after good kickers for season after season.
You look at the team that got rid of him too quickly. Was it the Vikings, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's right.
5th round pick for him as well.
So they're not always thrown in the mix when you're talking about the foundational pieces, but Carlson and then Josh Jacobs, Derek Carr, Darren Waller, who wouldn't want this job?
It's a great job.
Assuming it's not Bisaccia.
And it's in Vegas.
Exactly.
You know?
Why would you not want this job? This is the first time a Raiders job has been desirable in 10 or 15 years.
I mean, to be honest with you, me personally, again, I said this last time, I was like, I couldn't live in Vegas. I'd be dead in a week. If you're giving me multi-million dollars and making me live in Vegas, someone will die.
And that someone will be you, clearly. I think it's fair. Can you tell me the last time the wildcard game had 2 quarterbacks making their playoff debut?
No.
2005.
2017.
I was close.
Want to tell me who they were?
7?
Dakota Prescott.
No.
No, because Dak was
Later.
2016.
No, I don't.
no,
I'm not going to
go,
tell
go,
you.
go.
Sorry.
One of them was Blake Bortles.
Good Lord.
Well, the other one wasn't Ben Roethlisberger.
The other one was not Ben Roethlisberger.
No.
Who
So-
did they play before that?
Oh, was it? No, it wasn't. I
Mariota.
was going to say Tyrod Taylor.
No, it was Tyrod Taylor,
oh,
yes,
Tyrod
for the
Taylor.
Bills.
Bills,
Yeah.
Wow.
Come on, yeah. Wow. And but probably they're both their only playoff appearance. Well, I know
Probably.
playoff runs.
More to the point, not of the caliber of Joe Burrow and Derek Carr.
Can you think of
Also,
that?
that's their only playoff
Yeah.
appearance as well.
January balls.
Only shows up for January. That's the problem.
When you look
the
at that Bills team with Tyrod at that point and look where they are now, we should be hiring that GM. We should be hiring somebody involved in that process.
You're back on the Giants again, aren't you?
It's fucking
Stop it.
Move on.
Yeah, let it go.
You've got to let it go. Jamar Chase, 9 receptions, 116 yards on 12 targets. He is going to be the target every time. Somehow the Raiders didn't managed to pick this up. We knew their cornerbacks were going to be a problem, and they could not stop the connection to Jamar Chase. That is key for the Bengals moving forward.
He's really
right?
good, though. I mean, he can literally moss people, can't he?
Yeah.
Like, there were a couple of plays where he didn't push off on the defender, but he certainly used his physicality to remove the defender from the equation and then catch the ball. Like, he's just a joy to watch.
Do you remember when a week before the season, everyone was like, "Oh, you've seen it. He can't catch." Because he did have a bad preseason games, and then
I do remember because Gary doesn't let us forget about it.
yeah,
I mean, he's got to have nailed down O'Roy.
Yeah,
I would have thought so.
100%.
I can't see how you couldn't have done that.
Nobody else calls it O'Roy, do they?
No, just you. Yes.
I had to
It
take
sounds
a
like
beat
a
to think
Muppet.
about it.
Sounds like an Irish fella.
Oh boy, would be the most Irish name.
I was pleased to see Eli Apple emerging. John, any thoughts on that?
Oh, he was rubbish.
Wasn't rubbish.
He was only rubbish at the Giants.
He's been serviceable at the Saints and serviceable at the Bengals.
Yeah.
He's not a star
The thing is-
cornerback.
Locker room cancer, Eli Apple. Apparently.
He was
It might have been the locker room that was the issue.
Yeah.
I thought we weren't talking about
No.
the Giants.
I did wonder.
He was fine.
Right, I have some points I'd like to for you to address for me. Best player this season on the Raiders. Overall.
Carlson.
Daniel Carlson,
Yeah.
Paul, John,
Renfro.
I'd say Renfro.
and I would also say Renfro. I think he's really stepped up.
Oh,
I hear Max
Carlson's
Crosby's
been
very
great.
good.
I hear Max was
He's
very
right,
good.
he's
Better than Bosa is
I mean,
what I heard.
I suppose Max Crosby is probably their only All-Pro,
I mean, Max,
and that means a lot.
Max Crosby's probably the most
Jokes.
dominant defender in the league, I'd say.
Definitely the most dominant edge rusher.
I mean, he has to be All-Pro.
No,
True.
Renfro.
I would say Renfro has
I'd
really
go
made a name
Renfro.
for himself. Most disappointing player on the Raiders this season.
John Gruden.
I would like to
Well,
take.
I mean, there's one
Can we-
obvious
yeah,
one.
yeah.
There's one
One
obvious.
very
we're gonna,
obvious
we're
one,
gonna
which I
leave
think we
this
should leave.
obvious one aside because he
Yeah.
was brilliant until he was removed from the situation.
Um,
I will tell you my answer is Leatherwood,
Yeah, I was
who
going to
has
say
not
that.
been
yes,
good.
yeah,
He
true.
started off left tackle, moved to right tackle, now he's right guard.
He's basically being canned out.
Yeah,
Just keep going to the end of the line.
yeah it's not a great pick.
Yeah, it's no. I was expecting a bit more Josh Jacobs, but he's been injured. You can't really hold that against him. But like, I don't know if we'll ever get a full season out of Josh Jacobs, and that really is disappointing because he's very, very good.
Bit like Saquon, really.
Jesus, again.
I know the Giants; they just keep coming up.
Boomerang.
This one's a slightly unfair question because of the situation, but give the coach a rating out of 10.
Raiders coach.
Yeah, the Raiders coach. We're just going through the losing teams because the rest of the teams we're going to see later in the playoffs. But Raiders coach Rich Bisaccia, out of 10.
8.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I'd
me,
say
7
an
or
eight.
8.
I
I
was
think
thinking eight.
He had one job, which was to get to the end of the season,
Yeah.
and he
He's
surpassed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Got handed a shit show, pulled that locker room back together, and they're in the playoffs.
it's nice to see players wanting to play
Yeah.
for just a guy.
He was handwriting letters to the players.
Saw that.
Yeah.
And
Just tell him to fuck off. That was the weird thing. Why did you win? You could have got me a job, you bricks.
do you see the coach? It was on, I think, it might be on Instagram or something. The coach relationship with Zay Jones, and I think there's a real tight knit sort of feel there since Gruden went off to check his emails elsewhere, and normally. You for the last few years, you've often felt that there's something not quite right there, and actually, it's a shame. It's a shame now that we're going to be.
Are we talking about the same Zay Jones?
Yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same as AJ.
Yeah.
Do you want to give him his full title?
Buffalo Bills receiver Zay Jones arrested after nude fight with brother. Zay
That
Jones.
one.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
Jones.
He seemingly has rebuilt. Well, he's rebuilt. He was not bad this weekend. He's not been
he was
bad.
good.
Very good.
He's replaced the aforementioned Henry Ruggs, and I think there's a good community feeling there, which is a shame that basically they're going to start again.
I think that Rich Bisaccia, having observed him on the sideline, has never been on the internet and doesn't know about the nude brother wrestling and just treats him like a normal human being.
Maybe that's for the best.
Biggest change needed for the Raiders to succeed next season? Single biggest thing?
They need to make full use of their first round picks and not just sort of.
Problem is they only got one. Well, they did have 3.
Yeah, no, but they've wasted too many for too many years now. But
For me, they need to just find better players on defence. We've laughed about Eli Apple, but he's one of their better defenders at the back end, and that's a problem.
they're very good against the rush. I don't think they're very good against
They
the
cannot
pass.
defend the pass.
They don't do free agency well, and I think they need to actually just.
You're right, they don't. Yeah,
They're a team that needs to attack free agency.
they always
better.
seem to bring in what I'd think of as like mercenaries, people who don't want to be there for a long time. They just want to be there for the paycheck.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the biggest changes. I think we've probably seen this isn't answering your question. You're gonna have a go at me, but I think because we've seen this happen throughout the season, it just needs a culture change there. It feel like even under Gruden, the place always felt a little bit toxic.
If you want a culture change, you stick with Rich Bisaccia because it's happened.
Well, that's what that's why I think he should be given at least the opportunity to interview, because he has turned around that culture, and he has kind of done almost like a us against the world type locker room.
But they'll bring in someone like Mike McCarthy because he's a name.
I heard Jay Gruden's not doing anything these days.
Out of the frying pan and into the frying pan.
Yes. So, I believe so. Okay. Game 2. This was a stunner.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. Patriots 17, Bills some.
47. That says here. 40,
that's the number.
30 points more.
This was about as dominant a performance as any quarterback could put up, as Josh Allen led the Bills, and they creamed the Patriots, scoring on every single drive and consigning New England to their worst playoff defeat since 1963, when they were the Boston Patriots.
Never punted.
And the last time Bill Belichick smiled.
or had an erection. Don't know why I know that, but
Today's podcast brought to you by Viagra. Have the Bills rounded into form at the right time, or was the opposition just unable to provide a stern enough test? I will tell you that Patriots defence looked like it was one game too far. They have been brilliant this season, and for the last month of the year, they're just being caught out on big plays, giving up massive chunk yardage because they have always been on the field. And so you asked me before we started, it must have been hard writing this part of the... No, it wasn't. You're right. If you'd have given me 10-7 and playoffs before the season, I'd have snapped your hand off and said thank you very much, because it came with the caveat of if we do that, we've found our quarterback for the future, which we have done. He played fine in this game. 2 interceptions, yes, but he had 2 touchdowns, 260 yards, 232 yards. He was fine. Mac Jones is not the reason we conceded 47 points. The reason is the defence are shattered. Hightower didn't look great. There were others who just looked gassed, and I suspect that's where the rebuild will happen. I don't expect as much to be done on offense.
Yeah, I mean, you said it before we started. There are some old guys on the New England defense. Devin McCourtney's been there a long time. Donta Hightower, you mentioned. Carl Van Noy is getting on in years. Jamie Collins is still there.
All these players are younger than us.
not me.
I
could still be an effective blocking tight end.
Just from standing in the way.
I'm pretty big. Pretty wide. If you want a circle at tight end, I'm your man.
So like I was saying, there are some pretty old guys.
But yeah.
So and that's kind of probably where they need to improve. And they've done a lot to improve the offense. I think the offense is much better than we ever expected it to be after last year. So now they just focus on the defense, bring in a couple more guys who can do a job. Use the draft. Belichick's good at drafting defensive players.
You find players that fit the system, which is why Jamie Collins always looks like an all-pro, sort of like Crosby when he plays for us, but not like that for anyone else.
It's like so many players who've left you and then looked really average. I mean, the Lions giving Trey Flowers that salary is
laughable.
Yeah.
Malcolm Butler isn't even in the league anymore.
No, I know. It's a travesty.
So I think where the Patriots are now is where the Bills were last season. They're building something. They're getting experience of the playoffs.
2 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
2 years ago. Two years ago. I think Josh Allen and the Bills are a solid 2 years ahead of New England, but that is fine because this is the second year of a rebuild without the greatest quarterback any team has ever had. And these things are bound to happen.
Successful.
Okay, so most successful, but there were bound to be steps that needed to be taken. We were never going to go straight back to the AFC Championship game. And yes, it was disappointing, and yes, it got to half-time, and it was stupid o'clock in the morning, and I stopped watching. I just watched the highlights of the second half. They weren't many. And But that's fine. I cannot find anything to be upset about because I was delighted that they got back there. I thought Cam's illness last year really stopped us pushing for the playoffs. And this year we got back to playing the way New England want to play, which is defense, 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 run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, 2 passes from the quarterback, score. And that's it. Nick Folk kicked the most field goals I think any Patriots kicker has kicked in a league season. But we won a lot of games that way. So I just don't have a lot to throw out as a disappointment. I'm perfectly happy with where they are, and I think they'll probably go a step further next year.
We're forgetting one very important point here as well, is the Bills are fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, so we were going to get to that. This is the main question. They've rounded into form at the right time of the season, which is great for them because there've been some patches this year when they've been rough. Don't forget they lost 9-6 to the Jags earlier in the year, which tells you a lot you need to know.
Still don't understand that game.
The key,
Absolutely bizarre.
The key thing for the Bills appears to be they've got a running game, which means you can't just wait for Allen.
Well, they've got a running game outside of Josh Allen.
Yeah, and
Devin Singletary suddenly he's been given the job. Solely given the job, and it seems like that's boosted his confidence. He's like, I can run the ball.
And confidence is the key thing because Josh Allen definitely dipped earlier in the season, was making rookie errors again, and now he's back to being Josh Allen. Some of the runs and some of the ad-libbed pass plays are incredible.
That first touchdown.
The first touchdown was ridiculous, and at that point I knew it was over because he ran for about 15 seconds round and round and round in a circle and no one touched him. And then he just lobbed the ball out there and scored. He was trying to throw the ball away.
Yeah. Dawson Knox has been quite the underrated player of the year.
Yeah.
Like if that was an award, Dawson Knox would be up for it. Except you forget about Dawson Knox and you probably give it to someone else. But
yeah, when you name your top 5 or 6 tight ends, you never consider him. But his overall contributions this season, he's been every bit as important to his offense as more or less anyone else outside of Josh Allen.
I mean, he's like most of the players in the Bills. He's unremarkably good.
Bit like us on this podcast.
I think that's fair. You're right. They've got a couple of star players, Josh Allen, Stefan Diggs. But then you look at some of the other players, we mentioned Dawson Knox. Yeah, it's all right. Gabriel Davis is sneaky good. Even Isaiah McKenzie is sneaky good as well. Like they've got actually a few weapons there that can just step up and rotate into the lineup.
And their defense is playing well again as well.
Defense
that's been up and down this
season.
season.
It's been criminally underrated though. Like it's been a top 10, top 5
They had been
defense.
bad against the run.
Yeah,
but
there
they
have
seem
been
to have
teams
sorted
where
that
they have
issue.
fallen down.
They started in the first 4 weeks they had 2 shutouts. Admittedly, they were against the Texans and the Dolphins. But
to shut out a team in the NFL.
Doesn't
I mean, if you were going to pick any teams, the Dolphins at the beginning of this season and the Texans would be pretty early.
But they started off well, and then they just plummeted for a while, and then they've come back. So since the Week 15 win to the Carolina Panthers, they've been absolutely on it, and. The
Bills have been playing angry since they lost that ridiculous game where the New England Patriots just ran the ball for the entire game. They were massively offended by the way the press dressed that up as, okay, you still can't beat the Patriots. And pretty much since then, they've been immaculate.
And I think it irked McDermott as well.
Of course it did.
I think it all came out as,
You were out-coached by Belichick.
Out-coached by Belichick. And it's like, I think he came out and he went, it doesn't take much coaching to play like 1950 and, just run it on every play. And in some ways he's right. In some ways he's wrong because he still lost. I think I picked the Bills at the start of the year and I started to worry. And now it's not looking such a stupid decision.
I also very much like the Bills for the Super Bowl, so this is going the right way for me. I've been a big Josh Allen fan from the very beginning.
Yeah,
looked that up. I was. I think they're in great form. This is wonderful. So back to the Patriots before we move on. Same as before. Best player on the Patriots this season. Who has contributed beyond where you really thought they would be?
J.C. Jackson's been very good in defence.
Ramondre Stevenson.
For me, it's Damian Harris. It's carried the offense.
I was coin toss between the two.
I think John makes a good point with J.C. Jackson. He's been brilliant. Although I think he'll be gone. Yeah, I think he'll be gone. We don't tend to renew.
I know it's distinctly average somewhere else.
It's a bit too easy to pick, but Mac Jones deserves credit. He could have easily crumbled under the pressure he had there.
Yeah, like I say, any of those first-round quarterbacks that have Bill Belichick would have had this kind of season. He just is maximising what you can get. Trevor Lawrence on this team would have been incredible this year. He just would. But
you look at it, and he's come into New England. He doesn't have a backup, so it was quite clearly going to be on him. And you look at what's...
He has a backup with quite a few Super Bowl rings.
But you look at... It's the same as...
Super Bowl winner Brian Hoyer.
Yes.
But you look at what's... the guy at the Jets, similar situation.
Zach Wilson, yeah.
And just coached awfully. He's so lucky that he came into, New England. But yeah, I did think of Harris. I think if you could just merge run offense into one player, because Harris had some time injured, and Stevenson came in, and then, he's been
You're off the fence, John.
No, I say they've all been great, but J.C. Jackson on defense has been lights out.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good shout. Most disappointing player of the Patriots team this season?
Nelson Aguilar.
Was he not predictably
Jonnu
disappointing?
Smith.
I was going to say Jonnu Smith.
Jonnu Smith is my answer as well.
At least Henry scored lots of touchdowns.
Yeah, Jonnu Smith done very little. He's been blocking, and then missing with injury.
Yeah.
Same as he always has been. I see what you're saying with Aguilar, but he was predictably disappointing because Matt Jones was never going to be a downfield thrower. And Aguilar is a bit like Deshaun Jackson. Needs to get free, catch the ball, and run into the end zone.
Kendrick Bourne was really good in this game, actually.
Kendrick Bourne's been quietly very good all season.
You were premature to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a good few receivers coming through in 49ers at the moment. So.
You're defending your prematureness.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
Whoa!
Biggest change needed in the Patriots organisation to succeed?
I think you mentioned bringing some youth into the defense. Yeah. I'd like some a short receiver for Mac Jones. So not like a short,
slot receiver.
A slot receiver, someone like a Jarvis Landry or Michael Thomas, who's going to
Danny Amendola.
Someone's going to run 9 yards, turn around, catch the ball.
I think Jarvis Landry would be great on this team. That's a really solid shout.
Not a bad shout, actually. Yep. A solid pass rush for me.
Yeah, Judon really went off the boil. Yeah. And that's part of what I was saying about the defence. Like, they didn't show up in this game at all. There was no pressure on Josh Allen whatsoever.
And his red sleeves really fucked me off.
Really annoyed me as well.
I don't know why. But yeah. If it annoyed me, I imagine Bill must be absolutely fuming with them.
Well, this is a great jumping off point for Game 3 because things that fuck people off. Jalen Hurts. So Eagles 15, Bucks 31. The Eagles will soar no higher this season, and the final score was kind to them. But it's been a successful year, all things considered, despite the Brady-led Bucks blowing them out on Super Wildcard Weekend. There's been a lot of talk about Hurts' performance, but really, Todd Bowles and the Bucks D deserve the credit here because they were brilliant.
Taking away, before we get on the shit on Jalen Hurts show.
Oh, what's my favourite part of the show?
Is that on Eurotrash?
Yeah.
Niche reference.
The internet provider scrambles the service for me, so I don't see it anymore. But that Bucks team is much better than them.
Yes.
100 times better than them. So losing to them, I don't think you can blame this on any part of the Eagles other than they played a team who were much better than them. Had a much better roster, had a much better coaching system, had a much better motivation, and were on the upswing. The Eagles, I wouldn't even say scraped into the playoffs, kind of like fell into the playoffs.
They're in the playoffs because of the deficiencies of other teams. But I've still got to say, like, you should have. They should have been watching the Bengals Raiders game and gone, God, if you had a half decent quarterback and a really great wideout, we should probably just keep chucking the ball to him. And they didn't. They Devonta Smith got some catches in this.
I think there was 5 minutes left in the third quarter before Devonta Smith had a reception.
Yeah, he had 4 receptions on 11 targets for 60 yards.
I know this is a good defense, but there were injuries. That people were dropping down, and I just feel like it's a missed opportunity because this is an Eagle team that is probably going to have to keep rebuilding, and you've fallen into the playoffs by luck, and you could have. It would have been nice and fun to see them bloody the nose of the Bucks a bit, but apart from garbage time, they
By garbage time, the Bucks players had their feet up already. It was incredible. They were barely playing. It was like business decisions all round. Like, just let them go in.
The running touchdown at the end, I mean, it was just like, we could tackle him, but I don't want to hurt my shoulders for next week.
Do you want another depressing Tom Brady record?
Oh, I bet he's got like Sonia.
More playoff wins than half the league or something.
This was the 5th playoff rematch between a starting quarterback and a team that he had lost to in a Super Bowl. Tom Brady is the only quarterback to win the rematch. Like, just putting something else to bed, just ticking another thing off the list.
He's got a much better team as well.
Jim and I were listening to something on the way here where they made a point that Tom Brady has now won 2 regular season games worth of playoff games. That's insane.
Yeah.
I've been shitting on Jalen Hurts for most of the season, and I'll continue to do so, but I don't think it was all his fault on when did they play? Sunday.
23 of 43, 258 yards and a touchdown. He had 2 interceptions.
The number which pisses me off most there is the 43.
Yeah, it's too many.
It's way too many.
Yeah.
You only attempted to run it 17 times.
Yeah.
And 8 of those were Jalen Hurts. So that's
the reason they stopped running
of a running back.
A, they were lots of points down, but B, Todd Bowles had got his defense stopping the run. The Eagles were averaging nearly 200 yards per week rushing.
Always the issue with the Eagles is that they can only play one way.
Yeah.
And we've always said, if you can set the edge, keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket, and have enough pressure up front, you can beat the Eagles quite easily.
Yeah, and so it seemed. The thing is, they did just come up against a better all-round team.
Yeah.
Todd Bowles has barely been mentioned as a head coaching candidate, but I think he deserves another shot. He never stood a chance with the Jets. Nobody stands a chance with the Jets. He's been brilliant here.
It might have been Troy Aikman that said it on commentary. It's like, you can't count his Jets experience because the Jets are a trash
The Jets suck, yeah.
It's basically, you should take that off your CV and just look at what he's done as a defensive coordinator both here and at Arizona before he joined New York.
Looking where the Eagles are going to, they've got 3 first-round picks.
Yep.
That's an interesting team to watch this offseason.
And Jim aside, they've got 3 first-round picks and their quarterback already, and their coaches are seemingly well set.
They've got a decent backup. They've got 2 options at quarterback.
Yeah, I think
Gardner Minshew is okay.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew is one of the better backups in the league. We've seen this. I don't think we need to dwell on him. I think the Eagles are set only to move forward. So I'll start early with the questions. But what's the biggest change the Eagles need to make for next season?
Quarterback.
I couldn't disagree more. I don't see what the problem is with Jalen Hurts.
I'd bring Jalen
Easy to
Reagor
boot.
into the centre of Philadelphia's city centre and have him flayed.
It's not his fault. They make some really strange decisions, and like we were going over the people that they could have chose instead of Jalen Reagor.
Justin Jefferson.
What's he ever done? Oh,
Debo Samuel.
Debo.
The biggest change is purely like they did with Lamar at the Ravens. You keep developing, and you work on the passing because things will come together. Josh Allen wasn't a brilliant passer in year 1 or year 2.
Fine. So go to who's Carson Palmer's brother?
Jordan Palmer.
Jordan Palmer. Go to Jordan Palmer and say, do to me what you did to Josh Allen.
How do you know about that?
I read stuff.
Oh, okay.
Work on, and
Show me on the doll where he touched you.
He needs to go away and work on his passing game. There wasn't that change from year 1 to year 2, though.
No, there wasn't.
Do we trust that he can do it from year 2 to year 3?
No, but it's got to be worth throwing everything out.
I mean, if I was him, yeah, absolutely.
They just made the playoffs with this guy, so you've got to work with what you've got. And Lamar, he's still not a brilliant passer, but we would say he's better than Jalen Hurts. Yes, I think Jalen Hurts can be as good as Lamar.
I agree.
I'll take Tyler Huntley over Lamar.
I think I think they're pretty even. Even with Lamar's couple of years extra, I think that on passing they're pretty similar. He's not as instant when he moves as Lamar, but keep going.
Where are you ranking Nick Sirianni out of a 10 for the coaching this year? Because we started the season and we said this guy's gone at the end of the year. He's nuts.
7.
Solid 7.
Yeah,
he's done what he's needed to do.
Above expectations.
Well above expectations. I'd say, he could.
He's bought himself 2 more years for me.
Easily, yeah.
If they have a bad
If
year
I'm
next
giving
year, I don't think
Bisaccia an 8, I'm going to give him an 8 because he got to the playoffs. He didn't,
Oh, Bisaccia's done more. Bisaccia's had to put out the dumpster fire.
The
Worse
Bisaccia, yeah,
situation.
it is a worse situation. It's not that worse. Like the team he took over Griff was calling them fucking Super Bowl contenders.
Oh, but I mean,
They did make the playoffs.
there's a difference between repairing a dressing room where the influential head coach and one of your wideouts killed a man.
The Eagles were a fucking
John Gruden
bin
didn't
fire.
kill anyone.
No, I
The
mean,
Eagles
The
were-
way you worded that was,
that
that was not good. You made it sound like they conspired.
Do you remember how Pedersen ended?
In a damp whimper.
A damn whimper, and the place was a bin fire.
yeah.
So yeah, just he's done.
I've never heard it called the damp whimper before.
No.
It was though, wasn't
It
it?
really was.
Because yeah, he took out he took out Wentz for basically
Nate Sudfield.
Nate Sudfield.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it.
threw Nate Sudfield in for the second half.
And basically just cost they were absolute garbage,
Yeah.
and they're in the playoffs. 8 out of 10. I think if you're saying Bisaccia was in a much better situation, I think you're forgetting how much of a bin fire the Eagles were. At the
Yeah,
start
I
of the
think that's
season.
fair. John's making a good point. Best player on the Eagles this season? What do we think?
Devonta Smith when he gets the ball.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I think given the opportunity, he is a top 5, somewhere just behind Jamar Chase.
I think it was his second catch on Sunday where he just suddenly he got the ball. I think it was a flat pass. He beat 4 defenders. And made 15
Jalen Waddle's
yards,
got more plaudits this season than Devonta Smith, and I think that's harsh.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm going to give you a slightly weird one. Jake Elliott. That is a unremarkably good kicker.
Again, good kickers are worth their weight in gold. I think that's a fair comment.
And he can kick long accurately. Well,
And most disappointing player for the Eagles this season.
their entire running back room.
Well, there's Kenneth Gainwell, who has the wrong name for a man who doesn't. But I don't know.
Right.
Other than that, they've done well running the ball. I think the defense overall is a problem.
Yeah, Fletcher Cox has fallen off a cliff. Like he was kind of Pro Bowl style defensive tackle.
He's
Now
almost
just-
as old as you.
Yeah, I know, but that's no excuse. Also, Ryan Kerrigan, they brought in out of free agency. He's just done nothing.
Yeah, the defense seems to be where they need to make some changes for me. I think the use of the picks, these 3 first-round picks, is going to be crucial. I think they're set on offense. I mean, you've got a tight end, you've got your wide receivers, you've got your quarterback for now.
Offensive line needs work.
Okay, offensive line needs work.
Lane Johnson still there? She is as old as me.
Yeah.
Jason
But would you
Kelce.
not
Jason
think
Kelce,
2 of
yeah.
those first-round picks have got to be defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I think
Rushing
so.
the passer, and more importantly, cornerback, just trying to stop teams going past you so easily through the air.
You got to find someone to play opposite Darius Slay.
Yeah.
We always gone about the Foles and Wentz when they won the Super Bowl. Actually, the Super Bowl was built on a brilliant
Really good
defense.
defense,
I know the Super Bowl actually was all out offense, but what got them there as well was a superb defense with a
So
peak Fletcher Cox and stuff.
I agree with you. I think what I'd do if I was the GM, I'd hire a first round wideout, and
Easy for you to say.
I'd sit Jaden Rager in a room and go watch film of him and go, why aren't you doing that?
We ought to concentrate on the Bucs for a minute. We've talked a lot about Eagles here, but the Buccaneers basically did exactly what they needed to do. They were losing O-linemen left, right, and centre. Tristan Wirfs twisted his ankle. Also easy for me to say.
It's not easy for him to come back from, though.
Jesus, no. Jensen, the centre, went out, came back in. Clearly couldn't move very well, but was determined to play.
You always forget how big these men are until you see them. Until you see them being carried off
Like 6 other
by
people.
6 other men.
Yeah.
And you can see them. You think, oh, that's why they.
330
That's why they have a
pounds.
cart,
Massive.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A team of stout men on the sideline.
Just a pack horse carrying them off.
I saw a funny thing the other day. It was like things that you wish could happen in a sport but never will. And someone said, every Olympic event should have like an average person doing it as well, just so they can see how superhuman they are.
Absolutely
the same for rugby and American football. There should be a normal sized person on the field as a scale.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea, but that's always brought me back to Paul's idea of the mandatory Olympics, where you just get a letter through the post saying, "Jim, you're doing shot put for England," and then see what records you don't set. Mate, you've got 6 weeks to train.
You hold that in the same stadium.
Yeah.
As the normal Olympics.
A bit. You would watch that. You would absolutely 100%.
Just there, ready for your shot put, just clapping to nobody.
What do I do with all this chalk dust? Inhaled it by mistake.
And now representing England in the gymnastics, we have Margaret, a 63-year-old IT consultant.
Today in the hurdles, it's Paul. Paul has IBS. That would be fantastic.
And
Anyway,
confirmed.
back to Tristan Wirfs.
Back to
Yeah. So
the Bucks.
The Bucks. Yeah. Look, they were losing players. Much like Paul, actually, Brady's release time was less than 2 seconds in this game because the O-line was just falling apart.
That's the fastest of any quarterback this year.
Yeah. So Paul, you are setting records. It's going well, but
he's brilliant.
he's making nobody's out wide into great players. He's got Gronk playing brilliant. Gronk is now peak Gronk again. It's really weird. He only does it for like a quarter of each game because that's all he's got. But it's unplayable Gronk for a quarter in each game, which is just worth its weight in gold.
People step up in this team as well, like Gio Bernard. Like with Rojo out, Leonard Fournette out, suddenly Gio Bernard comes back to playing like he did against
the first pass that Brady threw to him, he dropped. It was slightly behind him and he dropped it. And Brady just slapped him on the head and then went straight back to him the next time. You're like, okay, Brady, because Gio Bernard is effectively...
There was no one else.
But Gio Bernard is effectively what James White was for Brady for years, which is like the ultimate security blanket. He just loves having him in the team. So, yeah, I know we shouldn't effuse about them all the time, but let's not forget they are the champions and they are brilliant. Like, it's a really good team.
It's going to take some to beat them. Like, let's get into the Super Bowl at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, game 4.
We're going to do what... I suppose they're not out. I was about to say what we need to change for the Bucks, but sorry, I've just...
No, nothing. This is why I haven't been doing the winning teams.
Yeah.
Some of us have to be
I got excited. I wanted to change stuff.
You're changing tempo. Like, it's perfect.
I know.
Game 4, 49ers.
I don't like the shade of red on the uniforms.
Well, now you say that, I don't like the black on black hats, but everybody else really liked them.
I like the black on black hats.
Yeah, a bit of black on black action for John there, no surprise. Right, 49ers 23, Cowboys 17. Mike McCarthy must be out of a job.
Nah.
Oh, he should be. Jerry
he should be.
How long did they keep Jason Garrett?
This is slightly controversial, but there's a part of me that surely if you're Dak and you're getting that into your helmet, I'd like you to run through the middle. Sorry?
Yeah. So to set this up here, basically the Cowboys had about 18 seconds to get
16, I think.
No,
it was 18.
It was 18 seconds to get somewhere near the 40-yard line in order to attempt a reasonable pass into the end zone for a score to tie the game, effectively. And the play call appeared to be, hey, Dak, see that 30 yards of ground in front of you? Take as much time as you like and run that. So they did, and then they forgot that the ref has to spot the ball. So Dak spotted the ball in front of his O-line and then stood back straight into the path of the oncoming ref, delayed him
really
touching
well
the ball.
To get there so fast,
He did, for an older fella. And then basically the Cowboys lost by not getting the snap off in time. Now, there's no guaranteeing that they'd have scored. None. And I don't find it controversial. And actually, we didn't talk about the whistle in the Raiders-Bengals game, which is fine because it didn't have an effect on anything.
Well,
you are forgetting this would have involved passing on the 49ers cornerbacks.
Yeah, but there's no guaranteeing. So
actually, yes, you're right. But the 49ers are worse when we're against deep passes. Like, if you shorten the field, it actually gives it would have given the 49ers a better opportunity. So in that sense, I agree with you that our cornerbacks are bad, but it actually wouldn't have made... I don't think it probably put them in a worse position than it would them throwing a Hail Mary from the 50-yard line.
You remember the Giants at one point had Janoris Jenkins and Eli Apple?
Yep.
Yeesh.
There's been a lot of talk about this particular play because people wanted to know why this play was called. So you've said if you were Dak, you'd be like, you want me to what now? Jim said to me on the way here, why did he not just run to the sideline?
Why? I mean, my point, why are you running it in the first place? all of us apart from Griff have played Madden. You don't run the ball in that situation because you're going to, with no timeouts, because you're going to burn the clock.
I'd have run the ball because I don't know which button makes it pass.
This is true. And then why run, if you're going to run it, why run to the middle of the pitch when you've got no timeouts and you've got to expend time then clocking the ball? Even ignoring the rules, even if that would happen and you manage to clock the ball, if you've got 15 seconds as a passer, you've got 3 passing attempts. You've now limited yourself to 1 passing attempt.
Yeah, it was a bad call. So does this call fall on Mike McCarthy, who's copping a lot of flack? And I have never liked the appointment. I don't get it. This is Mike McCarthy, who didn't win enough with peak Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay for me. Like, you've got your Super Bowl and then you've got nothing. Or does it fall on Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, who seems to be getting a lot of shouts for being the next Cowboys head coach, or he should be being interviewed by this team and this team and this team? I don't get it. They've not been that good on offense this season. Yeah, all right, Dak's thrown the most touchdowns in Cowboys history, but they've had games where they've been utterly terrible.
You look at the Dallas offense versus the Tampa offense, player for player. Okay, Brady's better than Dak. I think we can pretty much all agree that. But Dak's not a bad quarterback.
No.
Everywhere else, there's quality. The offensive line's probably better for Dallas, I would say.
I agree.
Yep.
The wide receiver units are probably about on par. I might just about give it to Dallas because they've got 3 good wide receivers, and I don't count Antonio Brown for
at the start. Slight devil's advocate. If you have Mike Evans, Godwin, and Antonio Brown, I'd
probably shave. Yeah, I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen
I
the
agree.
other.
Yeah.
Tight ends, I think Dalton Schultz had a really good year. Okay, maybe not quite Rob Gronkowski, but running backs, I would give it to Dallas again. So what is Kellen Moore doing, or what is Byron Leftwich doing that Kellen Moore isn't? Because Tampa works. Dallas is like, okay, sometimes we're going to score 50 points against the Philadelphia reserves, and then we're going to score no points, 17 points against the 49ers, who haven't got any cornerbacks.
There was a very accurate critique I heard of a very angry Cowboys fan shouting at the screen. I'll find it for you when we have a break, because I won't. It's very sweary.
That doesn't normally stop us on this podcast.
But I'll find it for you, and I'll play it for you in the break, and if deemed necessary, we shall play it. But it just sums up kind of their season of, we're going to do it. It's like Liverpool in football. We're going to do it. It's our year. And we're out the first attempt.
Well, that's how Jerry looked after the game. He's angry. He did not confirm that Mike McCarthy would be the coach for next year. Now, that's fine, because nobody ever comes out after something like this and says, oh, yeah, I'm definitely nailing my colours to this mast. But I genuinely think McCarthy's in trouble. He's had 2 years, and they've not shown the progression that they should with this team.
Oh, but you can't. When you watch the quarterback of your franchise get carted off with his ankle facing the other way, you've got to give him an extra year.
Really? Because Jerry Jones is 80 or very nearly 80. He doesn't have a lot of extra years to win another Super Bowl. That is as bleak but as true as it gets.
I just think
they haven't.
I'm not.
Since 1996, they haven't even been to the NFC Championship game.
I'm not putting any hope towards Jerry Jones having a nice day.
They will. Whilst the play calling, if it's on Moore, if it's on McCarthy, I don't know, whatever. One reason you get rid of McCarthy is penalties. No one's been more penalised.
14 penalties in this game. It's the most ever in a playoff loss by any
most
team.
Penalties against this year is the Cowboys.
Yeah, 126, I think.
Yeah. That's discipline, and that's McCarthy.
It's coaching.
Yeah, it is. And
I think even if you look at the game, if you go back and watch most of the snaps that the 49ers, the Cowboys had on offense, you could probably call a holding call, because they were holding all over. Like when the injury for Nick Bosa, he got hauled down and hit his teammate because he was being held.
Yeah.
He's been held a lot this year, probably why he didn't get all pro.
Max Crosby's too good to get held.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing Max Crosby gets held in is esteem, Jim.
Very good.
Fuck.
But yeah, their penalty count's terrible, and that is on coaching. That's coaching. That's discipline.
All right,
and I think if McCarthy stays, he's in for a rough off season anyway, because it looks like Dan Quinn's definitely going to get a job this year.
Yeah.
Looks of it. Kellen Moore, if he interviews well, if he's not staying to be.
You take these two coordinators away from Mike McCarthy, and he's just a fat bloke on the sidelines. Like, that's what he is.
You remember when Pedersen lost both his coordinators and just fell off a cliff?
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing.
It's like having both your arms taken away. You can't even throw a challenge flag.
Especially Dan Quinn. You remember how bad the Packers' defenses were under Mike McCarthy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember how bad the Cowboys' defense was before Dan Quinn turned it around?
Yeah.
All right, it didn't work out at the Falcons, but he got them to a Super Bowl.
I mean, to be fair,
we've just mentioned Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Some people are just probably better at being.
But some people also
Concentrating on
deserve
that.
a second guy.
Yeah,
and
he
Quinn and Bowles are
absolutely
two
does,
of them. I really think so.
100%.
Jim, tell me, 49ers, as a 49ers fan who was convinced you were going to lose this game.
I wasn't.
Well, come on. There were stages there.
We watched this in the kitchen, and I said the 49ers by 5.
You did, but then I got home at half time and you were saying, well, this is not going our way now.
Oh, that's just
This is-
in-game emotions.
Wow.
that is.
Yeah. So in the game.
I worried for you at points.
Yeah, I did as well.
So did I.
But tell me, what is it about the Niners? Bearing in mind that their quarterback is middle of the road. He's not terrible. And this is the thing I keep hearing about, well, he nearly threw it away. He didn't. So it's fine. But what is it that makes them so effective?
It's the trenches. It's the defensive line and the offensive line are just brilliant. Like, if you go on Twitter and look for Brian Baldinger's breakdowns.
I watched what you shared earlier from our very, very improved Twitter account.
Yeah. The way he breaks, I mean,
It's actually tweeting now.
yeah.
He's tweeting sense rather than just, that's not a fucking penalty.
You're watching the Leeds game. Yeah. On the offensive line, they're just... Well, actually, the whole team loves to block. Like, you look at Kittle,
Yeah.
you look at Ayuk, you look at Debo.
See, Kittle only had one catch in this game.
Yeah. And there's no egos there either. Like, you don't see Kittle coming out and say, oh, not only had one catch. He loves blocking. Brandon Ayuk has had a completely different end to the season as he has to the start of the season.
Yeah, he's catching balls
Catching balls now. He's actually playing in games. But he blocks so much. Carl Juszczyk is again another blocker. They love the battle. They love the fight. Micah Parsons said before this match, everyone's talking about us getting bullied, but I'm from Harrisburg and the bullies bully the bullies. Micah Parsons got absolutely taken out of this game. He did very little. Very, very little. And that's because the offensive line's brilliant. And then on the opposite side, the defensive line, even though Nick Bosa went out fairly early, there's 8, 9, 10 defensive linemen who just kind of keep rotating and keep that pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. And the pass rush was as effective without Nick Bosa as it was with Nick Bosa. It didn't drop off.
Probably why he didn't make the Pro Bowl or the All-Pro.
I like the Shanahan cycle.
What's that?
You know, he's actually quite good. We could do this. He's rubbish. It's just not working out. It's not what he used to be, not what he should be.
It's a shame Gary's not here. I'd have liked his opinion.
We're
Which
currently
is
on
rare.
At
He would have
18
been the
minutes.
opposite to my positiveness.
At 18 minutes past midnight. Run the damn ball! Oh, for fuck's sake! Ah! Oh, phew! I hate sport. And then
There was a lot.
Yeah.
I thought obviously follow a lot of Twitter 49ers, and there was a lot of run the fucking ball, Kyle, because that was the most frustrating thing is that we've got such a good running attack, and we needed to drain the clock, and he kept fucking passing it, and that's when Garoppolo threw an interception. It's right towards the end where he should have been running it.
Garoppolo has a great record in the playoffs.
Yeah, amazing.
Whether you like it or not, Garoppolo is clutch. It's just the bit up to that clutch point
Yeah.
of the game is always a
There's
worry.
always one or two things which he did which are horrible. Like there was one overthrow of Ayuk who was completely open and would have probably just about gone for a touchdown if he caught it. Massively overthrown. And then there was the interception, which was just a horrible interception.
It tends to be average for the first half, awful in the third quarter, clutch in the fourth quarter. It's like it's the scale of Garoppolo
This
up and down.
time,
Up and
like,
down.
the first two 49ers drives, we absolutely destroyed the
Yeah.
Cowboys.
I
Like,
thought
they
it was
just
going to be a
weren't in it.
walkover. No,
Fair play, they came back in that fourth quarter, but I don't
left themselves too much
really.
to
The
do.
49ers were the
They're
better
flat
team.
to deceive the Cowboys
Yeah.
all season.
I think most of us picked the Niners to win, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's difficult to believe in the Cowboys. Even though they should be a better team, the coaching there and where it filters down from that point leaves you with no confidence. Kyle Shanahan, you believe, can think his way out of a problem.
When I said the 49ers cornerbacks were bad, the average pass attempt from Dak Prescott was 5.9 yards.
Yeah, and it needed to be about 15.
Yeah, it was 6.9 for Garoppolo.
Yeah. Best player on the Cowboys this season?
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons by a mile for me,
I
but
don't think
Farrah brothers.
I can't think of anyone better than Micah Parsons, quite frankly.
Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah.
Well, now that's fair.
Well,
He had two.
There's a lot of he has a lot of interceptions, but he doesn't do anything other than that.
Win big, lose
But-
big.
Yeah, and that's it.
He's massively committed.
If you've got
Good in
someone
Vegas.
like,
Ayuk
if you've got Micah
Ayuk-
Parsons who
Ayuk
can
had
basically
one.
do everything,
only
why-
one
why not?
only one cornerback has a better interception percentage league wide in NFL history. So Trayvon Diggs had 11 interceptions out of 440 interceptions this season, which is 2.5%. Only one player has a better record.
JC Jackson.
No,
Revis?
it was last year
Oh.
for the Vikings. I think, for the Dolphins. Sorry,
Oh,
Xavier Howard.
Yeah.
And I cannot remember his percentage, but he had 3%. And so, but imagine what can be done if you keep building this defense and don't lose Dan Quinn or make him the head coach. Most disappointing player on the Cowboys. If you don't say Zeke, you're wrong.
Yeah, it's Zeke.
I think, yeah, Zeke.
2.6 yards a carry on Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not. It's almost to the point where it's actually not. It's not disappointing. It's because it's expected. Yeah. It's disappointing compared to his pay packet.
Yeah.
But it's consistent with what we've come to expect from Zeke.
The ties are running out of tread.
I think he's got to seriously think about renegotiating his contract if he wants to stay in Dallas.
Yeah, see, I think Tony Pollard's a better running back.
Yeah.
According to the thing, they're 14 million over cap for next season, and that, I mean,
what do you lose if you cut Zeke?
About 13 million. So he's got to be careful. But
can you give me McCarthy a rating out of 10 for the season? Bearing in mind they've made the playoffs, they won 10 games or whatever.
5.
6.5. That's right. 6.5.
I'm sorry. For me, it's 4. Look at the personnel on this team. They should make look at the division they play in.
It's the first coach we've asked you to rate where they didn't exceed expectations.
Yeah,
for me, it's a 4. I think it's not working. I understand Paul's argument is valid. Like last year, difficult to count, but he was never the right coaching appointment in the first place. That's the problem. Biggest change that you want to see for the Cowboys for them to be a success this time next year?
Oh, what I want to see is they just trade away the O-line, Micah Parsons. What they probably need to do. There's not a lot. It's coaching.
Change of coach, concentrate on Pollard, let Zeke be the backup running back or not on your team, because I think Pollard is a better, more explosive player.
You can pick someone up cheap who can be a backup.
If Bill O'Brien ends up back in the league, as me, trade him to him, because he's an idiot.
Bill O'Brien's a good coach. He's a bad general manager.
But yeah.
Elijah Mitchell, 6th round pick. Zeke Elliott.
Yeah.
You're going to take at the moment based on form.
Well, exactly. Now, I can't think of anything other than Mike McCarthy.
No, I think that's fair. Paul, anything to add?
I just burned down the entire stadium.
They're not going to burn down Jerry.
That stadium, the light coming in
at
one end and then hitting the punter, hitting the scoreboard. Design that.
It's not great, is it? This is like a 60-yard punt that came back off the screen.
The guy had no chance to catch. It was a ball. I think there was one drop pass, and the guy didn't have a chance. They showed the camera angle, and it was like, nah.
Like looking straight into the sun, which apparently you're not supposed to do. Kids, just saying.
Tell me now.
Yeah. Let's take a break.
It's time for us to take a break. Well, we're back from our break where we've been playing with the pod dog and stuffing our faces. It was very nice.
Someone still
I
is.
think it might be the 5th pod dog as well.
Is it 5th?
5th.
I thought it's 4.
We've got
Ebony.
We had
Doug and Flash.
Doug Flash.
Yeah.
We've got.
I didn't count that.
We've had Coco. We've also had Rocky appear as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So technically, this could be 6th. The 6th
pod dog. Wow. And you haven't brought a single dog to the party, John.
What's with that, John?
No.
It's time to get your bitch game on. Right. Game 5. Steelers 21, Chiefs 42. Another team rounding into form at the right time. It's the Chiefs who stormed back from an early setback to sink the Steelers and seal Big Ben's retirement. He departs with a record 5th Wildcard Weekend loss. The Chiefs are hot right now, but there are some kinks to iron out as well. So, Where to start with this one? You want to talk Chiefs first? I think we'll talk Chiefs first, seeing as they were the victors, and we've done a lot about the losers.
They won by 3 scores. You can't argue.
30 points clear.
I'm not arguing.
It's almost as good as scoring 47 points.
Yeah. But the Chiefs basically took care of business pretty easily here. And much like the Bills, they've recovered from some setbacks earlier in the year to be really hitting peak Chiefs at the right time. I believe Kelsey threw a touchdown, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Again, not a game I saw the entirety of. Once I saw that it was going to be a blowout, I gave up.
Yeah.
If I'm perfectly honest.
It's late at night.
Yeah, well, it is late at night, but also this is the problem with the 7th seed. Is I don't think it's necessary. It's some crap teams getting in the playoffs.
Yes, I agree. I'm never going to complain about more football.
Oh.
And you never know what's going to happen. We mentioned it earlier. The Jags beat the Bills.
Yeah.
So, I admit both 7th seeds this year have been pretty dire.
If the Chargers had made the 7th seed, that probably would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
If the Saints had made the 7th seed.
Yeah, or the Colts or something.
Yeah.
Just anything else.
It was just unfortunate that the 7th seeds were 2 teams where we were like,
nobody needed them in the playoffs.
that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I like what it does to the season. It prolongs the season. And we can't moan then when 2 shit teams effectively make it
What
through.
John is basically saying is the Giants have got a much better chance of qualifying for the playoffs in 7 years' time as the 7th seed.
Even if 14 teams from each division went through, we still wouldn't have made it. So I can't say anything.
You, the Lions, and the Jags would just be sitting there going,
"Oh,
we were close this year."
Yep. If we burn down the whole organisation and try again, we might be able to get into this into the 14th seed. But yeah, no, it's
another soft reset coming.
But yeah,
There's nothing worse than a soft reset, is there?
We've all been there.
yeah, no,
We have. Tell us more.
Don't.
but yeah, as well, we can't. You can't then blame, the Raiders and whatever because the Colts and the Chargers shat the bed.
Yeah,
That is effectively what they did. Like the Browns should be in this playoffs. They have had a shitty season.
They're better than the Steelers. They should be here.
It's not the fault of the Steelers and the Raiders.
No.
They are there
on merit.
on
They're
merit.
They won
They're on
enough
merit.
games to
Exactly,
get there.
Yeah, and it's
The question is the sport better off for a 7th seed? The answer is probably no. After 2 years.
I think it's a bad example because last year was mental because of COVID. Let's not. And
This year's not been much better.
this year's not been much better. Yeah, and there's still we've still got.
Are you being attacked by pod dog?
Yes, I am. We've still got a lot of rubbish. Like the average teams are not as good as they've been for a while. So yeah, it's just weird.
I think you got to leave it at least 10 years before you can make a call on the 7th seed being a bad idea.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to tell you now it's a bad idea. And in 8 more years' time, you're going to come back to me and go, yeah, they've never been any
Just
good.
like I've been saying Jalen Hurts is shit, and now we've all come around to that way of thinking.
No. Right. Patrick Mahomes joined another quarterback as the only players with 400 or more passing yards and 5 passing touchdowns in a playoff game in the Super Bowl era. Who is the other quarterback?
Eli Manning.
No.
Peyton Manning.
No. Think closer to home. Much, much closer to home.
We haven't got any English quarterbacks.
No. But you don't want to think
Blake.
too far.
Blake Bortles. The Jags are English.
Tom Brady.
No, John was fairly close.
Drew Brees.
Boo! It was Ben Roethlisberger in the nearly comeback game against the Jags, where he just hammered them in the second half, but just couldn't do enough to come back from the deficit.
But Pittsburgh's nowhere near my home.
I was thinking about this game being home.
I'd like to know what you're saying about what I do in my spare time. Allegedly.
Hammering what exactly?
Quite.
Fun.
Yeah. So the previous record for wildcard round losses was held jointly between Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, and Andy Dalton. And now Big Ben is all there by himself. And is he going to wander off into retirement? I assume he is going, by the way. This is my
Everything
overall
points
assumption.
to him leaving.
He needs to. He wasn't very
Well,
good.
Tomlin this afternoon has said he's very much looking forward to trying to find the next Pittsburgh quarterback. So
Yeah, but then I read something else that Mason Rudolph is going to be the starter in next year.
Sweet Christ, no.
That can to me that's
we
can only
said
be
this
a
at the
bluff.
weekend, right? If you get on field beaten with your own helmet, you should be precluded from ever being a starting quarterback ever again. I know it wasn't funny at the time, but it was funny at the time.
There should be certain things like if you lose to the Jags this year, you shouldn't be allowed in the playoffs, which would mean the Bills are out. If you get beaten by your own helmet, then you should be.
That's not a euphemism.
It should be instant
seen
retirement. Instant retirement.
It's beaten round the face with your own helmet, were you, Paul?
I've seen films. I agree with you here. I mean, I feel that's a face-saving exercise because you can't go, I'm looking forward to finding the next quarterback, then walk in next week and go, hi, Mason. How you doing?
Okay. Away from the Steelers again for a second. Derrick McKinnon, remember him?
Yeah.
12 rushes, 61
really
yards, 5.1 a carry. I didn't even remember he was still in the league. Where have they been hiding him?
Well, he was
In
at
the treatment room.
Yeah, he was at the 49ers for 3 years in their treatment room.
Yeah, but how long has he been on the Chiefs roster?
I think this might be his first year.
Wow.
I did see a bloke on Twitter who reckoned he was going to put his mortgage on the fact that Derrick McKinnon scores in the playoffs. And I hope he did because it'd be either
Rushing
funny
or receiving, or just in general.
just in general.
He did get a touchdown.
He did get a touchdown.
Yeah,
Yeah, receiving. He had 80 yards receiving, did he?
81 yards receiving.
So, do
And
you know,
61 yards
5 years ago, this guy was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's brilliant. That's
And
why
he's just
if
been
he's-
injured ever since.
If he had knees, it'd be great. But
A bit like you, John. If you had knees, it'd been a different career for you.
would have been a different career. Yeah,
You'd have been a pro footballer.
I wouldn't be on this fucking piece of shit.
What, if you had knees?
If I had
No,
knees.
you're thinking if you had friends. If you had friends, you wouldn't be on this.
Oh,
Yeah? Right.
Either way, yeah.
Friends or knees, you wouldn't be here. Andy Reid, now fourth most playoff wins among head coaches in NFL history as well, past Joe Gibbs for that record. So I thought that was quite good.
shock horror. He's a good coach.
Well, so as we've done with the other teams, because there's not a lot to say beyond the fact the Steelers led early through an interception and then
It was a fumble.
a fumble recovery from TJ Watt, which was, usual TJ Watt just dominating because he did.
It reminds me of another stat we heard on the way here, and actually I was driving, so I might have heard it incorrectly, but this might be the first time since 2019 that there's been a lead change in a playoff game.
There were no lead changes in the playoffs last year. Was actually the stat. Yeah, there were
Basically,
none.
if you need lead changes, do you need a Chiefs game effectively then? Because I think the
previous
changes
ones were them.
were
yeah.
them.
The Chiefs did have a bit of a slow start. Yeah, the touchdown side. It took them a while to get going, which reminded me a lot of the 2019 Chiefs, where
Where they were 21 points down to everyone before they started.
literally
It's like a handicap, which they should have to give to teams, and then that would make it far more interesting.
seems to wake up the Chiefs. So whatever works for them.
Yeah, I mean, as well, it was it's a strange fumble anyway because it is always strange to just see the quarterback out on the in the wide receivers and I can't even remember who the wide receiver was who passed it off to Williams to then fumble it, but yeah, it was just the whole time thinking this looks like a stupid play.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Travis Kelce joined one other tight end as the only two with 10 or more receiving touchdowns since 1950 in the playoffs.
Gronk.
It is Gronk. Of course it's Gronk.
It's gone, yeah.
It's always going to be Gronk. And the Chiefs, this sums them up. Chiefs have scored 21 or more points.
Antonio Gates played for the Chargers, so it's not like he played much in
Yeah, I
the
was gonna say, yeah.
playoffs.
It's a shame. Yeah, Chiefs have scored 21 or more points in 66 games since 2018, which is the most of anybody. Most times that's been done since 2018. Basically, since Pat Mahomes got there, you're guaranteed 21 points a week. All you've got to do is have a defense that can hold up. And the Chiefs' defense has improved,
Oh, it's got a lot
Gotcha.
better.
which irons out their kink. It's still a fact that you can score on them.
It's not a top 10 defense.
And the other thing is that their running game, okay, Jarrett McKinnon's played well, but it's not consistently
No,
good.
but their offense isn't based on the running game. Their running game is there to set up the passing game, to make defensive opponents respect the fact that they might run the ball. If they just passed it 100% of the time, they wouldn't really bother with linebackers. They just have a defensive front and then a whole load of cornerbacks. The running game means they have to have the right personnel in place.
We mentioned earlier around people who are just good coordinators. Steve Spagnuolo at Kansas is a great defensive coordinator.
Spaggy Steve.
Yeah. He just needs a few weeks to get it sorted.
He finds a way.
It's like Belichick, isn't it?
And as well, like they've never really replaced Kareem Hunt. You know.
No.
I know Clyde Edwards-Helaire is
Injured.
He's injured. He's
And
fine.
not as good as
he's
Kareem
not,
Hunt.
but he's not as good as Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, what's Kareem Hunt done this season?
Well,
much.
do you know, he had the odd game, but he's second behind Nick Chubb, and he's just happy to be
He's
in
been
the league
injured
and
a
have
lot.
job.
He's been injured as well. So it's
Here's one for you. Here's the question for you. Big Ben and Pat Mahomes are 2 of 7 quarterbacks all time to make multiple Super Bowls in their first 5 seasons. Who are the other 5 quarterbacks?
Multiple in the first 5 seasons. Oh, Brady.
Brady.
Steve Young.
No.
No, he only went to 1.
Yeah. All brain.
First 5 seasons.
First 5 seasons, multiple Super Bowls.
Aaron Rodgers
One of them
only
is still playing. Other than
Russell
Brady.
Wilson.
Russell Wilson.
of course,
yes.
yeah.
One of them has been misnamed on this podcast many times.
Oh, Kurt
Kurt
Warner.
Warner.
Coach Warner. Yeah. One of them was name checked earlier today in reference to something else on this podcast.
Rich Gannon.
That was a conversation off air, but no. No. Earlier than that, first half of the podcast. Anyone? Come on, silence is golden on the podcast.
I'm trying to think.
Who did we talk about?
Who do we talk about?
Cowboys,
Oh, Troy Aikman.
Troy Aikman, and finally, everybody's favourite rubbish GM,
John
John Elway. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, you forget he shat the bed, didn't he?
oh, yes, he did. He did. He was really good at that. Much better than he is at being a GM. Okay, we know what the Steelers need to do. We know what their biggest change needs to be for next
that
season.
offensive line.
Yeah, if you like. For me, it's finding a quarterback.
Yeah.
The concern is, we've already discussed on previous podcasts, there is nothing worth taking a quarterback at in the first round. Somebody will take one.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because they're not going to be picking in the top 16. I can't remember where they're picking. So you look further down the draft order. There's not a quarterback which you like. Yeah, no one's good, a top 10 talent compared to previous years. Someone will take a quarterback in the top 10.
But free agents at quarterback this season will want to play for Tomlin.
Yeah,
God,
20. They're picking at 20.
picking at 20. So there are a number of quarterbacks that are going to be in play at 20.
Yeah. I
So-
agree, but none of them are going to make this team better. No, none of. I'm telling you, no. It's not a question.
You're probably right.
None of them.
Because
So,
it would be a rookie quarterback.
who in free agency is going to be available that would want to come here? I mean, there are several free agent quarterbacks. We know that, but surely all of them would look at this team and think, okay, if you draft into the O line, that's the biggest weakness on the offensive side of the ball. The defense is brilliant.
Do you remember when they had Doc Hodges and Mason Rudolph, and they were basically finished one game away from the playoffs?
Yeah.
I think if you could get if Tomlin could persuade a Trubisky, we keep mentioning the same people over again, but you could take someone who's flattered elsewhere, flattered to deceive,
a Minshew,
a Minshew,
a Teddy
Mariota,
Bridgewater.
a Teddy. Like what they could do with, I mean, as well, a Teddy Bridgewater. It's not much of a downgrade
all
on,
of those
on Ben.
no, he's not a downgrade. All of those would have been better than Ben this season. All
And
of those that we mentioned.
With he'll have Juju back, Claypool.
Juju's free agent this year as well.
Is he free agent?
Yeah, so he might not be back.
Oh, fair enough. I
But
know.
they still have like Claypool, Deontay Johnson.
Freiermouth is been a really
Freiermouth's
good,
brilliant, yeah.
really good tight end. He might,
Got the G Harris for the running game.
yeah, like it's an attractive place to be, and he could raise a middling quarterback who's a backup elsewhere into a starter, and
If they
do what the Titans did to Tannehill.
if they do draft, can you tell me anything about Desmond Ridder or Kenny Pickett?
Desmond Ridder's had a really good year for Cincinnati.
Kenny Pickett and the
Kenny Pickett from
Pickett
Pittsburgh.
5.
Well,
Whatever
no.
they're called. They're a
Kenny
band, aren't they?
Pickett from Pittsburgh. Again, he's had a really good season. I could see him going in the first round, and it'll be imagine that pick, Pittsburgh player playing for Pittsburgh Steelers.
I don't know. I think this has got bridge quarterback written all over it. My money's on Fitzmagic. A year
right.
of Fitzmagic at the Steelers.
I think Denver will bring in a new quarterback, and I think that puts Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, Teddy
right
Teddy
into the
Bear.
mix. Or even,
well be.
whisper it quietly, Jameis Winston.
I think he'd be great there. We're forgetting this is LASIK Jameis. This is
LASIK
a new,
Jameis,
This
yeah.
is a new quantity.
I hear Daniel Jones will be looking for a new job. You better hope
You know
he
what I
will.
mentioned earlier, Jalen Rager.
Yeah.
The free agent quarterbacks.
Yeah, I've got the list here.
Yeah.
So you got Fitz,
Yep.
who looked glorious, by the way.
Oh, we didn't mention that either, but celebrating topless with the Bills fans
Yeah.
in the middle of the fans, which I thought was brilliant. He was having the time of his life.
Andrew Dalton.
Andrew Dalton.
Yeah.
Fail.
Because he's a bit older now.
He's matured.
Yeah. Cameron Newton.
Fail.
I don't think his name's Cameron.
I don't think it is. To Rodolphin Taylor.
To Rodolphin. John, if you ever have a child, that child will be forever known as
Jameis Winston, Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota,
Don't say that name. It's
Flacco,
not going to happen.
He is
Mitchell
Cameron Newton.
Trubisky.
Is
I love the idea of Marcus Mariota on this team. Of course I
rate him
do.
as well.
Do you know what his children are called?
Dave and Julian.
Chosen
Newton.
Chosen Newton, and Sovereign Dior.
I mean, he could re-sign Dwayne Haskins.
Please don't do that. Dwayne Haskins is done. If he couldn't get into this team this year, he doesn't deserve to be playing in the league.
Josh Rosen.
Again.
I'd love to see someone just have a run with him.
No, it's not going to happen. He's not going to
rather
play.
have him than
because he's a
Mason
dick.
Rudolph.
Because he's a dickhead, isn't he? But you know.
It doesn't help that he's a dickhead.
There's some dickhead quarterbacks who've done very well in
But
Pittsburgh.
if you had a dickhead quarterback, the one place you'd want to be is probably under Tomlin.
Probably.
That is true.
Best player on the Steelers this season?
Harris.
TJ Watt.
Oh, yeah, TJ
TJ Watt.
Good point.
Then Najee Harris, but TJ Watt by a mile.
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely right.
Taking away those two, which are clearly streets ahead, I love Minka Fitzpatrick. I think he's great.
Yeah, he's just a bit of a one-trick
Why does he
pony.
keep picking people I hate?
I don't know. That's why
I don't hate Minka Fitzpatrick.
Outside of Big Ben, because it was predictable, who was the most disappointing player for them this
Big
season?
Ben was that disappointing.
Juju.
And that's what I mean. He wasn't that disappointing because you knew it was bad.
I
Anyone on the O-line?
Yeah.
anyone on the O-line.
But
I
then
don't know.
again, they were just...
Smith-Schuster got injured, I know, but he wasn't producing anything. I know that's down on the quarterback. But he took a pay cut to stay in Pittsburgh this year.
Yeah.
Like, quite frankly, he should be doing,
Take another pay cut.
he should have taken, he could have had a pay rise and been catching balls from Mahomes. But he's not.
He turned
That's what
down
he
an offer
said.
from the team who just beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
And I think this is going to be unanimous, so I'm going to ask anyway. Can we have a mark out of 10 for
8.
Tomlin? I'm surprised. I'm going to say 10. I don't think you could have done a better job with this team this
Oh, I
season.
never give away 10s.
I'm happy.
It's yeah.
It's a high mark, though.
No, I'm not going to give
Been
him a
one of
10.
the best coaching
But-
performances this season.
It's a 9 because, quite frankly, I think as well we've come to sort of expect a level of greatness from Tomlin anyway, and he's just the team that he has is probably weaker than it was last year, and weaker. You know, he's still getting better results. Quite frankly, he's a
Paul.
What he said.
Okay. Now, no one has mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it. Shitting the bed. The Cardinals 11, the Rams 34 on a weekend of suspect matchups and probable blowouts. This was not one that I had penciled in, but the Cardinals continued their dismal late season form. That's 6 out of their last 9 they've lost now. They pooed the bed from a standing start and rolled around in it for fun. This was not good.
Damp whimper.
Damp whimper. The Rams needed this to remind themselves how dominant they can be. The NFC should beware. But this was one of Kyler Murray's worst games. The interception in the end zone where he was
awful.
sort of throwing it away, sort of panicking. And then...
It reminded me of a bit of Tampa Jameis.
Yeah, but then he followed it with, on the next drive, throwing into the middle of the field, into congestion, hitting a player, and the ball being deflected and picked off. And that killed the game. 2 interceptions in 2 drives. Game over. Stafford was practically flawless. He only threw the ball 17 times. But But he now had the best ever quarterback rating in a playoff game for a Rams quarterback. and he didn't really do that much. This is what the Rams need to do. Jim and I were listening to something about it on the way here. They were right. I'd already got this in my head that this is the game plan. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Reintroduce Cam Akers slowly because you've got Sonny Michel who's still playing really well. Run the ball, run the ball. Let Matt Stafford throw it 2 or 3 times.
It is the game plan, but it's the game plan because you come up against a playoff rookie quarterback and who can be got at. Next week, it's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
And Stafford was flawless because he didn't have to do too much.
He had 3 touchdowns, 202 yards, 13 of 17. I mean, he just wasn't asked to do anything because the Cardinals just dug themselves a massive hole. Kyler, on the other hand, 19 of 34 for 137 yards and 2 interceptions. And his rushing yards, he had 6 rushing yards. They completely stonewalled him every time he went to. At one point, he was way into negative yards.
But it's not every week you come up against Von Miller and Aaron Donald.
No, and Von Miller now has a sack in 5 consecutive games after going 4 games to start his career there without a sack. And he's just turning it around and doing exactly what they need out of him.
I still think the GM of the Rams laughs himself to sleep every night thinking of what they got him for.
Probably. What was it again? It was
2nd round pick, I think.
Bag of oranges.
Second round pick's a high pick, but it's not for an elite pass rusher. You're happy to pay for that, and it instantly makes your defense better.
Only 2 quarterbacks have won a playoff game after throwing 17 or more interceptions in a regular season game in the last 10 seasons. Who was the other one after Matt Stafford?
Peyton Manning.
Yes, he's in. He's off and running.
Fucking say Peyton Manning. Fucking Peyton Manning.
Well done.
No, I just playoff quarterback interceptions. Peyton Manning.
Honestly though, dominant from the Rams, and I know we're going to get on to who they're playing next, but people had this, including me, had this as a much tighter game. I thought this was a 3-point game, if I'm honest.
I didn't. Because I think you touched on this right at the start. The Cardinals they're not a good team at the end of the year.
No, and for the 3rd year running, they're not a good team at the end of the year. They've started
10
strong and faded
2,
badly.
And then they just, like you say, they've lost, 5 in the last 6?
5 of 6, 7 of 9.
The team they beat were the Cowboys, and we've chatted about the Cowboys and how up and down they are at the moment.
They were 10-2. Yeah. 10-2.
Is it partly we mentioned basically their team is effectively like a sort of a 2017 Pro Bowl squad with Kyler, is that part of it? Do they need a refresh? AJ Green, even JJ Watt came back, but these players will spend a lot of time injured because they're not exactly spring check-ins. James Conner's come in, been great, but once again, when it's mattered, he's been injured.
They lost DeAndre Hopkins, and that definitely took something away from the team because it made them much easier to play against. But it has to be said, every year under Cliff Kingsbury has gone the same.
Oh, but you mentioned 10-2.
Yeah.
Is it time for someone else at the wheel?
I mean, very good.
Very clever.
Very good. That's this week's Sudetenland, brought to you by Paul Farrow.
I mean, it would be incredibly unfair, but it is becoming a trend now, isn't it?
See, now, again, Jim and I were listening to something about this. I absolutely disagree. The Cardinals have never had, they've never had a coach last 7 years. They've had 2 coaches do 6 years. One of them was Ken Wisenhunt. I cannot remember who the other one was, but someone from way back in the 50s.
The Phoenix Cardinals.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no, before then.
St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, even Bruce Arians was 5 years.
Yeah, they need to give him 5 or 6 years project to do this. Like you say, they've got some old players. Let him cycle through and see, because they're not a successful franchise.
I agree. You made the point there, John, where there are some quality veterans on this side. And when they've gone down injured, there's not been a young guy who's kind of taken that mantle on and really stepped up and have been like Christian Kirk was the lead receiver with 6 receptions, but he's not done much this year. Rondale Moore has been in and out of the team. Sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not. When he's there, he's good. When he's not there, he's just useless. If I was them looking at this roster now, I'd almost be inclined to go the way the Rams are and saying, we're not drafting that well. Let's use our draft picks to bring in more quality players.
I don't think the issue is the drafting. It's not like it was with, we mentioned with the Raiders and how they do free agency and how they draft. You look at some of the pieces they've drafted, like Isaiah Simmons is great.
Yeah, but they're 1 or 2 players
Yeah.
out of the last 3 years.
I suppose you've got your Andy Isabellas. And,
Yeah, I mean, Buda Baker's a good player in the back line, but there's very little around
when you
him.
bounce his head off the fucking floor.
Yeah. There's very little around him to kind of bolster that defensive back line. When you think, all right, could they have gone out and got someone like Jalen Ramsey? Could they trade for someone like Xavier Howard, who's always been rumoured to want to leave Miami?
He's been on the way out for years. A year. But, it's...
Like, you've got your quarterback, build around him.
Yeah, it is. They've got a great first team, but they've got nothing behind it.
No.
And I'm a huge Wondell Moore fan.
Said no one ever.
Well, it's because I
Said Mrs. Moore.
I massively reached for him in our mock draft. So I'm.
Was it quite a long reach? Because that wouldn't be like you.
Is he your new John Ross?
Here's my new John Ross.
What a wide receiver duo, Rondale Moore and John Ross. Welcome to the Giants, everyone.
Both really, really fast.
Incredibly fast. But once it gets to week 12, there's just nothing.
Was this Odell Beckham's first playoff touchdown? I don't know the answer. I guessed
yes,
it was.
because he played one.
He played one game for the Giants.
One game for the Giants and
didn't score.
Shit the bed after the boat pick.
So he scored a touchdown
last year when he was with the Browns.
Scored a touchdown and and threw a 40-yard reception in this game.
He always throws a nice ball.
He does throw a nice ball. Again, along with Von Miller, these have been 2 of the best free agency pickups in a long
Something
time.
like Odell Beckham looks like a quality wide receiver again.
It might be that Baker's the problem.
Maybe it's the quarterbacks that are thrown to him.
It does make you think that the more Beckham is becoming the Beckham, not the Beckham of old, but a useful player. You think Cleveland must be thinking, why did we let him go? Basically for nothing.
And why are we still paying him?
Yeah. I
wasn't convinced it was going to work with Stafford. I thought if he's got a problem with Baker, it might be the same with Stafford.
Stafford's comes across as quite a chilled guy. I think he can put up with
very chilled in his press conference. Like, I think just won your first playoff game. Like, yep.
I think he can put up with the sort of bullshit.
Most career starts without a playoff win.
Yeah,
Matt Stafford, 165 career starts without a playoff win up to this point.
The environment must help because it's a lot easier to look less arrogant in LA than it is in Cleveland.
I also think he's playing for his next contract, but I think the remit is it's very obvious to him. Well, you're here one season, win a Super Bowl. This is probably the best chance he's ever had to win a Super Bowl. And he's probably got one shot at it.
He's not only playing for a contract, he's playing for his career effectively because the last 3 years, 4 years have been so poor. And not all because of him, injuries and the environment. But I'm not. I don't like to, praise OBJ too much, but he's been brilliant.
This Beckham you give another contract to. Well, a team will give a contract to him.
The interesting point is, you see, like a running back will buy his own lineman watches or Louis Vuitton bags for Jonathan Taylor. He should be going to buy Robert Woods whatever he wants for getting injured.
It should be Tonya Harding, Robert Woods.
Because
that's the only way. That's the only way he's staying at the Rams.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's very true.
Because they can't afford him.
I honestly think he's done enough to get himself a solid deal somewhere else next year.
He'd be incredibly clever to take a massive pay cut and stay with the Rams.
Yeah,
agreed.
He won't.
Right, as usual with the other games, best player on the Cardinals this season?
Well, up until about week 11, I'd say Kyler Murray, but I'm not sure after that. We were talking about him as MVP at one stage.
Yeah. It's not happened.
James Conner, I think, has been brilliant.
I think
James Conner's been the nice surprise.
James Conner's what I've gone with. 16 touchdowns this season, James Conner. All from inside the red zone, by the way.
Can I just bring up Zach Ertz?
Yes, you can, because he was second on my
because
list.
Griff really likes to remind me that I told him not to bring him.
Don't bother getting him. There won't be enough targets to go around. He's been like the 5th best tight end in the league since he transferred there.
It's almost like if you get a player who wants to play somewhere else and you give them the options to play somewhere else, they play better.
Yeah.
Also playing for a contract.
Any raise on James Conner as their best player?
I mean, no, but I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Buda
Buda
Baker,
Baker. By
yeah.
the way, did anyone see the knockout of Buda
Yeah,
Baker
yeah.
with the full-on fencing response on the carton?
Paul mentioned it.
Oh man, alive! Sorry, I was
When you're losing,
I
it
did.
doesn't help. But yeah,
I was reading as well.
He doesn't live in the past.
I do
Quite
live-
frankly-
very much live in the past.
it's not. But the importance of Nuke Hopkins to this team has been displayed because as soon as he was injured, they can't buy a win apart from the Cowboys.
Most disappointing player. What do we think?
Chandler Jones hasn't done.
Well, especially after week 1 when he came out and like 4
5
sacks.
sacks, yeah, 4.5 sacks. I mean, I'm just gonna put it out there. I don't think Kyler Murray is making progress. He just looks like the same player every year.
He's a younger version of Russell Wilson. He flashes to deceive in the early weeks and then doesn't do what you need him to later on.
I'm very disappointed. I'm not impressed. I don't really get it. I didn't get the MVP talk in the first place. I certainly don't know what it was all about now.
Just
I'm not saying I was talking about it.
No,
I'm
but
just saying there
it's
was
true, it
general
was
consensus,
discussed.
Yeah.
when it comes to the clutch, he comes up short. And I'm not saying that as a joke on his height. He
Literally
comes up
can't
short.
rise to the occasion.
No,
Yeah.
it's true. We've all had that problem.
And it's harsh, but
What do we
He-
giving Cliff Clinkernuts out of 10?
I'm going to go for a 6.
I am also going for 6.
same.
I mean, everyone does well to progress out of this division because it's a really tough division. But they backed into the playoffs, man.
If the season finished at week 12, he's getting a 9.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
Yeah.
You know, he had another 6 weeks to play.
And with no
And-
with no context, you look at 11-6 record, you think that's decent.
But you were 10-2.
You're 10-2.
Paul?
I just think there was no plan. When Hopkins went out, there was no other scheme.
No.
I mean, it did seem a lot of their plays were just, fuck it, DeAndre.
Yeah, it does feel a bit that way.
Well, and you know that works because you know
He's a great player.
He's a great player. Look at
Jamar Chase.
Joe and Jamar.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, if the plan A, if the plan B is just generally to do plan A better,
Have we still got AJ Green?
yeah, you know,
That's what it felt like.
and he's done all right.
I mean, to be fair, who was in the Pro Bowl 5 years ago? Get me that guy.
What's the biggest change needed this off-season for the Cardinals to be better next year? I would say it's within the coaching. I don't know whether they need different coordinators or some more help for Cliff Kingsbury because I think the foundation of the team is very, very good. I think the pieces are all there. They're quite deep. Just something's not working.
I think like you look at that division and you look at, I think they look at McVay and they look at Shanahan, who are, you know, self-entitled offensive geniuses, and Cliff Kingsbury is meant to be like that type of player, that type of coach. Sorry, I can see what the plan is with the Rams. I can see what the plan is quite easily with the 49ers. I don't know what the plan is with the Cardinals. I don't know what type of football they want to play on offense or defense. It just seems that they want to try and win games, but they don't know how to get there.
Yeah,
They just need some depth,
Yeah,
in my opinion. They just need to bring in pieces. They don't necessarily need... The defense is okay. Their offense is okay. They just need
I
depth.
think they've got a lot of good skill players. I think they need a couple of bullies on the team.
yeah, and if they could like think of a way of cloning.
What is
Duke
Vontaze
Hopkins.
Perfect up to these days?
Well, not even that. I mean,
do you mean Richie Incognito bully in the locker room?
no, but you look at the Rams' offensive line, Andrew Whitworth.
Yeah.
You're not going to mess with him. Look at the 49ers' offensive line,
Trent Williams.
Trent Williams. Not going to fuck with that. Who's the enforcer on the Cardinals team? Yeah. Literally, you've been doing that for the last half hour.
Are you not feeling well, Paul?
Yeah.
Because that's discussed.
I feel a lot of protein.
Yeah,
There's no enforcer.
Then there's they need some nasty. Don't
Yeah.
they? Yeah. Some youth at the skill positions,
And a bit of nasty.
a bit of nasty.
Youth and Nasty.
Yeah.
That and you rap group.
Which sounds like
Young and nasty.
sounds like a 90s WWE tag team.
Youth and Nasty. Oh no. No one needs that.
One of them comes out in a mohawk. The other one's, it's very much pink and blue lycra. But yeah.
Which way are you swiping if you meet them two on Tinder?
John's wearing his
left.
pink and blue lycra.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough for the 6 games. We need to take a look at the divisional weekend matchups and make a case for each team progressing. We will start in the AFC. Bengals at Tetons, a well-rested Tetons. Derrick Henry back.
I'm going to put a case forward for the Bengals. If I could
Yes.
put my opening argument in for the Bengals.
Please do.
Bengals are on an upswing.
Yes.
The Bengals have momentum, and momentum is important in playoff football. The Tetons do not have that momentum. The Tetons are going to rely too much on Derrick Henry because they have to, because that's what the press want. That's what everybody wants them to do. And you have just above average defense at the Bengals, who I think can do what they need to do, and also the defense of the Tetons ain't.
No, that's bullshit.
I think the Bengals have momentum, and that's what's going to be the winner for this one.
I think the Tetons' defense is criminally underrated. There are no star players on there, but they are incredibly well coached. I agree with you. They're probably going to use Derrick Henry too much. The Bengals' offense is electric at the moment. And the best way to stop the Bengals' offense being electric is to keep them on the sideline. And you can do that with Derrick Henry, and you can do that with Deontay Foreman as well. Like, you've got a legit running game there. Use that. Where it's necessary, use Tannehill and AJ Brown in the passing game. But just keep hammering the rock. Like, the Bengals...
What's he doing there?
The Bengals' defense is decent. It's got a good pass rush. But against the run, I think they can be had. I think the 49ers early in the season showed the Tetons what to do.
I think this is going to be a very interesting game. Out of all the games we have here, for me, this is the one that...
This is hardest to call.
I completely agree.
It's
Might
hardest to
disagree
call.
with that, but it's hard to call. I wouldn't
When
say
you
it's the
boil it
hardest.
down, I would say
Hard.
Vrabel is the better coach.
Yep.
And so I will pick the Tetons.
It comes down to it. Nobody's picking Zach Taylor for nothing.
I just
It's
think
in Tennessee as
I
well.
think the
I'm
edge
saying
is with
that.
Vrabel.
Yeah.
Yes, they might be tempted to use Derrick Henry, but if they've got any sense, they'll sprinkle him in with a bit of Foreman and a bit of Hillard, and they'll allow Tannehill to run as well, because the Bengals are not great defending anything. They're okay, but
Middle of the
Tannehill, he's had 1 or 2 or 3 really iffy games, and the rest of the time he's been steady and just piloting this ship as pieces were falling off. It's not been as superb as last season from him, but they got the number 1 seed, and their best player didn't play for half the year. He must be involved in that somewhere along the line. So between Tannehill and Vrabel over Taylor and Burrow, I just think that's where I'm going. I absolutely think the Tetons are winning this one, but it'll be close.
I've just checked my Super Bowl challenge, and I have gone Bengals. January Joe to throw it to January Jamar. And
What about January Jones? Is she turning up there as well?
I hope so.
I think we all hope so.
But yeah, I think it's not the hardest to pick, but it's
No, I wouldn't say it's the hardest to pick.
Oh, I thought it was
But-
hard.
The last one's the hardest to pick.
But yeah, I just
They're
think
all hard,
for some reason I just have this feeling that the Bengals' momentum takes them through.
So you're backing Paul's opinion that momentum counts.
I think it does in play. I think it does in
I think it can do. You're
one-off
forgetting.
games like
If
playoffs.
any team needed a rest, it was the Tetons.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
true.
Which I think is why they played all their starters in week 18. Sorry,
I think that could be a detriment to them just as much.
could be.
Yeah, maybe. Okay,
We're split on that one.
we are in the NFC. Niners at Packers.
I'd like to start the opening argument for the Packers.
Okay,
They're a better football team.
I agree.
I would agree with that.
Before we make the argument, is anyone here taking the Niners? Because most of us took the Niners over the Cowboys. I am not taking the Niners in this game. I think the Packers are too good. Aaron Rodgers is too good. They've had the rest. We don't know what the state of half the players on the Niners is.
Well,
Yeah, the state looks good.
Fred Warner,
I can tell you the state of the
fit.
Packers.
Bosa,
Is probably going to be fit.
probably. I mean, he's not as good as Crosby.
Doink the clown.
Doink, doink, yeah.
I've gone with the Packers. And
I can't see beyond them. They're rested.
I don't think it's going to be...
I don't think it's going to be one side as you think.
I'm not
Adams
saying...
against your cornerbacks?
Adams against our cornerbacks earlier in the season, and we almost beat them.
Almost.
I think this is the Niners aren't. The Niners are a much better team than people give them credit for.
Yeah. I picked them to win easily against the Cowboys. I never had any
I never had
doubt.
any doubt.
I just think if they'd have drawn either the Rams or the Bucks, I'd have said they got more of a chance.
No,
I was actually, this is
They
just
drawn the wrong-
to me. This
they
is the
drawn the wrong
worst
team.
matchup.
Yeah.
And I had the if they had
vehemently disagree with you on that. I will set out. I do think the Packers will win, but I do think there is a recipe for the Niners to beat the Packers.
I'm saying it's close.
There's a path.
I'm
There is
saying
definitely a path because
they
think-
beat them, 2 years ago
Yeah.
in this play, and the teams haven't changed that much.
no, I think the way. Firstly, Aaron Rodgers has never beaten the 49ers in the playoffs. Most of those games were in San Francisco, so
Back in
as well.
Candlestick.
Candlestick, yeah. Actually in San Francisco. The 49ers defensive line has got to get to him, has got to rush him, and it's got to hope that they can disrupt him enough to throw him off his rhythm. That's one thing, and that's a tough thing to do. I freely admit that is, but I think if there's any D-line in football that can do it...
Let me just confirm, you're saying Aaron Rodgers uses the rhythm method.
Yeah.
Okay.
He does whatever Joe Rogan tells
Yeah.
him.
If there's any D-line that can do it, it's the 49ers. On offense, you can run against this Packers defense. You absolutely can. It's the weakness of the Packers defense, and it's the strength of the 49ers offense. Jimmy G can't make any mistakes this week. Last week, we could have got away with one or two, and we did. He can't make any because Aaron Rodgers is much, much better than Dak Prescott. So there is a path to win. Do I think they will win? Probably not. Would I be shocked if they did? No.
How many games this season has Jimmy G made no mistake?
Quite a few. He doesn't throw that many interceptions.
No, I'm not talking about interceptions. I'm talking about missed passes like the one to Debo. Sorry.
Most quarterbacks have mistakes.
Yes. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't.
No, exactly, which is why you can't give him the ball.
I think this is going to be a very interesting game. I think the Packers will win overall, but it's going to be interesting to see how they react to this run down your throat offense.
Yeah, no one likes it rammed down their throat, but we know that that's what the Niners are good at. The Packers, it's not going to shock them that that's what's going to happen. I just think the return of Bakhtiari with Aaron Rodgers in the form he's been in, it won't matter. It could be, for me, a scoring performance like the Bills just put on the Patriots. Because whilst I don't think the Niners will play as poorly, I can see the Packers scoring. I just don't know how you'll stop them.
Absolutely disagree with that.
This is playoff Packers. They're gonna shit the bed at
This
one
is
point.
one game too early
I
for
think,
that.
no, I've got them going to the Super Bowl.
As have I.
Sure, Jim's put such an argument forward.
You changing your mind?
I'm going to go for the Niners because I want to be the
Outlier.
the objecting voice here.
I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as
Gary
you
picked the
said.
Lions for this game.
Of course he did.
He picked the St. Louis Rams. I don't even get it.
The other NFC game is Rams at Bucks.
Yee, that's hard.
Yeah, this one I think could be the toughest.
Do you know what? I don't think this was hard. I'm gone
Really?
Bucks.
You've gone Bucks.
Rams beat them early in the season.
I think it depends on Jensen and Wirfs. If Jensen and Wirfs play, I think the Bucks will win. If they don't play, I think the Rams. I think Aaron Donald getting to Tom Brady is a massive problem. So I think this is a great chance for the Rams to beat them.
There's something interesting. There's a really cool stat I found out. There's a player for the Bucks who's never lost a playoff game.
Antoine Winfield.
Jason Pierre-Paul.
Jason Pierre-Paul, yeah, is he 11-0 or something in the playoffs?
Yes, he's never lost a playoff game.
But he's lost 3 fingers.
Neither is Antoine Winfield, to be fair.
I mean, I don't know what that's got to do with that.
He
I
hasn't-
mean,
he
I suppose he hasn't got that many fingers to wear rings on, but that's
He has the potential to be a firework in that defense.
he really does. Give that man a hand. Okay, well, so we're a bit split here then. Clearly the Bucks will come in as favourites because they're at home. And they've got Tom Brady, etc., etc. We know. But Brady needs that O-line because he's making people into stars on the outside by throwing to Perryman and who was that fella that they dug up at Wilson?
Taylor.
Tyler Wilson,
Johnson?
maybe. See, we can't remember. Yes, Johnson. That was him.
Tyler Johnson.
Johnson. That's it.
Let's talk about solicitors first. Tyler Wilson, Johnson, that guy.
Tyler Wilson, Johnson, Brady. That's it. That's it. And I really have a good feeling about the Rams.
What is the way that Brady was always beaten by the Dolphins when he was at the Patriots? Pressure up the middle.
So if you don't get it rammed down your throat, you want pressure up the middle.
And the Rams have got a pretty good weapon to ram it down your throat.
Absolutely, they do.
This is going to be a very interesting game, but you are right. It's the Bucs O-line because every other part of the Bucs is good enough.
Yeah.
But the Rams are this Rams team is a bit of an unknown quantity still because they're very good, but you've still got a lot of players who aren't used to playing together at this level. The Bucs have had a proper off season they haven't made that many changes to the team.
Hardly any. They brought back all their starters. The only one to
22
go is a certain Mr. Antonio Brown.
Yeah, so
It's nail your card to the wall time though.
Bucs.
Then I will be the dissenting voice and take the Rams.
You were going for Bucks earlier.
No, I didn't. I said I thought the Bucs were the better team, but
Barrett, David, Pierre-Paul, they're all going to swarm, and I think I'm not going to say it's going to be a resounding win, but I think they do enough.
yeah,
Bucks' run defense is much, much better. So they're not, the Rams aren't going to be able to lean as much on that, which means you have to lean on Stafford. And I think Stafford's good, but
he
he's always
has-
prone to mistake.
but it all hinges on the Bucs O-line. If the Bucs O-line is completely fit,
Well, I don't think it all hinges on that. You look how fast Brady was throwing the ball this week.
yeah, but he did get sacked a few times as well. Like
Yeah.
they were getting to him, and
Okay,
if Aaron Donald gets
they'll
him, he's going
get-
to bury him.
They will absolutely get to him, but I think Detroit Stafford could come out.
I'm going to ask a stupid question because I can't remember the answer to it, and somebody's going to shout me down. Where is Ndamukong Suh these days?
No, he's still there.
At
Tampa.
Tampa. Now, he used to say that his favourite thing to do was to hit Tom Brady. That was his thing. Like when he was at the Dolphins, he just wanted to kill him. And you get the feeling Aaron Donald will be the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think if Aaron Donald gets to him, Brady might not get up.
He got sacked. He
gets sacked every week.
But last week he got sacked by like Fletcher Cox,
Yeah.
who's also a massive human being.
I know.
He survived 24 years in this league. He'll survive another week against Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
No matter how many times he gets to him.
If the O-line is fit, of course I will take the Bucs. But as of today, nobody's saying they are all fit. And so I just think Aaron Donald eventually must win a Super Bowl. He must.
You'll have to forgive me for the
No, I never.
for the double entendre, but if you have a 2-second release, you're going to have a problem with sacks.
Well, this is the thing. It is an issue. Okay, well, a little bit of divided opinion on that. I may be shouted down. I suspect this is the one people are going to find hardest to pick. AFC, Bills at Chiefs.
This to me is the hardest one to pick. But I've still going with the Chiefs.
I'm going with the Bills, and I'll tell you why I'm going with the Bills.
Go on.
Make a bad podcast if we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with the Bills. Thank you. Good night.
See you next week.
8-second previews. That's our new podcast.
It's just predictions. What do you think?
Bills.
The no context prediction podcast. It'd save us a couple of hours every Tuesday.
Tell us why the Bills are going to win, Paul.
I think, again, this is momentum for me. So Josh Allen is playing out of his skin.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this to make, rub salt in the wound. They didn't.
No, they
beat-
destroyed the Patriots.
destroyed the
Yeah, they
Patriots.
did, yeah.
And this is a team that will want to get payback on the Chiefs.
For last year.
Yes.
I agree. I'm also taking the Bills. And the Chiefs are at home, and everything tells me the Chiefs should win. But I think that it's going to, if it comes down to the run games, because I think the two quarterbacks are playing as well as each other. If it comes down to the run games and the defenses, I think the Bills are better in both of those aspects. I honestly do. And I think it will come down to that. It'll be a 3-point game, and that'll be it for me. I just think the Bills are going to be a better closing team. And this is the bit where the Chiefs will probably score 40 on them. But right now, it feels to me like the Bills have got the best chance they've had in years of progressing to the Super Bowl.
I 100% agree with both your takes.
But you're picking the Chiefs because they're at home.
I'm going to pick the Chiefs because it just feels like a really Bills thing to do to absolutely shit the bed. And I think the Chiefs 100% turn up for this. I think they've got momentum as well. You look at the end of their season, they've been absolutely destroying teams. The Bills, I think, are a very good team. They're playing very, very good football. I think this will be a very tight game. But I just feel like it's going to come down to a last-minute drive by Josh Allen, and he's going to throw an interception.
Big news there. You're predicting it that finitely, are you?
Yeah.
The Chiefs have cornerbacks.
Doesn't matter. I just feel Josh Allen's going to go for a little bit too much and try and be the hero.
But that's very Pat Mahomes this season.
Not recently.
They're both capable of doing that.
Not the last few games. He's a lot more short passing.
Well, I'm sticking with I'm agreeing with Paul.
I mean,
John?
not going to be shocked.
Definitely
if the
going
Bills win,
Chiefs.
but I'm
I
sticking
mean,
with
I've
Chiefs.
gone with the Bills all year, and I'm picking the Chiefs to beat them. So
He's not on the fence. He's fell off the other side.
Our new sponsor, Creosote.
But yeah, I just can't go against this Chiefs team at the moment.
I think he fell off the fence because
I
he
think they
manscaped and it just so smooth he fell off.
It's
Lid right off.
yeah. They'll be desperate to make amends from last year's Super Bowl. I think they want to be there. We haven't seen playoff Josh Allen in yet because
Pats was so poor.
Pats didn't get to him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a tight game. I think it will be quite open, and but I think the Chiefs will edge it.
I think the fact that there's been a lot of disagreement shows you that these are the best 4 games we could have had.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing easy about it. There just isn't anything easy about these games. That's a good sign.
Apart from the Bengals, I mean, this is we could have saved ourselves 20 weeks of football, and just this is the 7 teams we'd have picked, and you could have picked the Bengals out of a hat.
Well, most of us had either the Browns or the Ravens.
Yeah, I was going to say either
in that particular position, and you couldn't argue either of those. I think.
I do think these are the best 8 teams.
They are the best 8 football teams. Yeah, and it's fair enough.
All right. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add for me before we sign off?
We had the potential for a Cleveland frown.
Yeah, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but go ahead.
Can I just ask a question?
Was that it?
Just can I ask a question?
You may. Thank you. Good night.
Why is it that when you're hiring a GM, you have to announce every person you're interviewing? It's just for my own knowledge. Why do you have to announce everyone you're interviewing?
I have no idea. James?
I don't know why. I think it's partly PR to show that, hey, look, we're looking far and wide rather than it being nepotism and hiring someone from within. I think some of it also has to do with the Rooney Rule to say that you're looking at people from a different ethnic. Why are you looking at me?
I was just making sure you're going to word this properly.
Yeah, you're looking at people from an ethnic minority to kind of build up kind of the amount of different ethnic minorities in the game at a high level. Like you look at, especially coaching right now, Mike Tomlin's the only black football coach at the moment. Now that Flores and David Culley have got, we didn't talk about David Culley, but that's just
we get to it in any other news in a second.
So I think that's a big part of it. But I think it's also very much like we are doing our due diligence. So I think you look at when the Raiders hired John Gruden, it was like, right, we're hiring, we're sacking our current coach and we're hiring John Gruden. It's like, well, who else do you look at?
Yeah, I have a Cleveland
Same
fan.
with Jags and Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
Actually.
It's I don't have a name for it because I've only just. But the refereeing this weekend has been.
Ooh, Jerome Booger's crew were terrible.
Yeah.
But there's that. I mean, they were talking about we chatted about it on Saturday. Where they break up the crews, don't they, and then bring in the best personnel. So Jerome Booger's crew is broken up, and he's working with people he's not worked with before.
It's like it's like qualifying for the Champions League and then being told you've got to take players from Luton, Bournemouth, Bradford.
Yeah,
they're not working as a team.
And so like the Raiders, I'm gonna whatever else. They weren't good enough to win this game, but they can still feel a chagrin that one of the touchdowns probably should have been by the letter of the law should have been called off. The Cowboys, the play, whatever, the refs didn't get to the line in time to spot the ball, so that's the Cowboys fans are furious. it's like they're trying to, hamper the ref units by mixing them up and whatever they are. I just, I think...
I don't agree with it. I just think if you're good enough to be given a playoff game, you should be allowed to select your crew. If that's your crew that you've got, then you should stick with it. It's a really strange one for me. I don't understand why the NFL do it. They say they do it as a reward, and then they wonder why refs struggle.
And, it's...
Bear in mind, these refs aren't paid either. They've got other jobs. So something to be thrown in with someone who you've not worked with all season.
Why doesn't the league pay the refs?
I don't know.
It's a terrible idea not to pay them.
It really is.
It's a... I think
There's so much.
it's a billion-pound industry.
Yeah.
I'll throw this out because it's a thing, but in cricket, there is an elite panel of umpires who travel the world and umpire the major games. Surely the NFL should be the same.
100%.
Exactly that. Yeah.
I think you'd find very few people outside of the NFL that would disagree with you on that.
Because
perhaps they can't afford it.
We always go back to the referee, like the football comparison, because that's what we're used to. And we have professional referees in soccer, whatever else. But the amount of the pressure that the refs have in American football, like just spotting the ball, is just the most insane. Like it's $1 billion sport. And you have a referee I think it was about there.
Yeah,
and you're like,
when the worst kickers get paid $300,000-$400,000.
Yeah,
and you can't spare a bit of cash for the refs.
No, it's
well, they're still measuring distances with some chains.
It's bullshit, and
it's very strange. They don't help themselves. I agree, absolutely. Did you come up with a name for the Cleveland Frown, Paul? You didn't, did you? You completely forgot about it.
I was looking to find that clip I mentioned earlier.
Oh, terrible. So it did come up briefly there before we sign off. David Culley fired by the Texans in a ridiculous move.
You can't even fire people right.
They waited 2-3 days longer than anyone else.
We mentioned it last week, and we
said he's going to go.
I said it only makes sense if they've got someone in mind.
And then they interviewed Hines Ward.
Yeah, it turns out that.
They interviewed Hines Ward. Paul's looking at us like, what now?
Steelers receiver.
No, just some bloke off the street. He's got a very similar name.
Yeah,
yes.
the ex Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, but no one seems to know why, and he doesn't seem to be a favourite for the job. They've got nothing. Nick Caserio, whatever his name is, just doesn't have a clue. He's basically come out this week and said, we fired David Culley and Deshaun Watson isn't likely to play for us ever again. And that's it. And you're like...
Kellen Moore's interviewing at the Vikings and Dolphins.
I don't know why.
We'll have to come back and do some...
But yeah, David Culley out of a job. He went 4-12 with probably the worst squad in the league. Yeah. He managed to get good performances out of Davis Mills.
We marked the playoff losers, so I'd give him a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think so. 7 out of 10 is fair. And I am... I mean, sometimes you see... Who was the guy that was the coach before Cliff Clinkernuts at Arizona?
Steve Wilkes.
Steve Wilkes did not deserve a second year. He was bad. But David Culley wasn't bad. No. David Culley did fine. And I think it's a mark of a very poor organisation. They gave him a 5-year deal and didn't guarantee it for 5 years, which tells you all you need to know.
Well, they're giving him $20 million in total.
I don't know.
I read. Yeah. So, I mean, they're welcome to pay me $5 million.
I get it.
I'll go away.
I get it. I understand. But I just think they don't appear to have someone lined up.
No.
In which case, it's a very poor move.
Same old Texans. I'm sorry.
Texans going to Texans, yeah.
I think I put it on Twitter. They've been a car crash of an organisation for the last 5-10 years almost.
Yeah.
Since Bill O'Brien took over as GM as well as head coach, it's just been a complete clusterfuck.
Since they appeared in the playoffs with Osweiler, it's been just...
even like
worse
how they
and
got
worse
rid of
and worse.
Osweiler.
Yeah, but they seem to have decided several years ago we want to follow the Patriot plan. What they've done is followed it without having Tom Brady, without having Bill Belichick, and without realising that the Patriots weren't going to be successful forever.
Also, without actually following the Patriot plan. It's just...
That's bullshit.
Oh, absolutely.
I just really feel for David Culley. I don't think he'll get another opportunity straight away somewhere else, but I think he certainly deserves to be considered for whatever positions are going that he wants.
It's a bit like the Todd Bowles at the Jets.
Yeah.
That man's done the very best he could with what he had, and he will end up somewhere else.
They went 10-6 with Todd Bowles in their first season, the Jets. 10-6. That was the year they missed the playoffs with Fitzmagic. They went 10-6. Don't ever forget that. The guy did brilliant things.
Yeah, I feel for David. I don't think he will end up somewhere else because he wasn't he came out of nowhere.
Yeah, he wasn't
for
a
that
named
job.
hire, was he?
So he'll probably get another
right
job
now,
somewhere, but probably not as a head coach.
No.
He hasn't, unlike Hugh Jackson or someone like that, he hasn't blotted his head coaching
He's not
copybook.
tainted his reputation at all. I think if anything, he's enhanced his reputation.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Right, I believe that is it for Wiki Wildcard Weekend.
Bring on Super Divisional round.
The Super
Can we
Divisional.
drop the Super?
Jesus Christ.
We are going to keep this extended playoffs. It's just always going to be like this.
Yeah, I can't stand it. Right.
That's right. The Mega Super Bowl's happening at the end of February.
That's a good place to sign off as any. Thank you very much for listening and good night.